the last topic which remained yesterday, that is self-help group. So let's quickly do the self-help group part also. It will hardly take 10-15 minutes. After that, if you have some questions, I will take those up. Okay, let's quickly do and read that also, and then we'll go ahead. So what exactly is self-help group that we did not do yesterday? I'm sure many of you would have at least heard the name self-help group or SHG. They are very similar to cooperatives but slightly different. In simple terms, people at the ground level coming together, pooling their funds as little as, let's say, 50 rupees each. Let's assume 20 people come together, 20 women come together. They decide they will contribute 50 rupees each, so that is 1,000 rupees. And now let's start a business with the 1,000 rupees. Let's just start a business of making pickles, making candles, making paper bags, or whatever. Or not necessarily to start a business also. It can also be, let's assume 1,000 rupees have been collected. Now, if any one of the 20 members wants a loan, they can take a loan from this 1,000 rupees and then pay back. So self-help group doesn't necessarily have to be for conducting business only. It can also be for this kind of a thing, helping members in financial need, etc. The essential feature of a self-help group is it is informal. So it doesn't have to be registered with the government, although you can register if you want, but it doesn't have to be necessarily registered. They are usually in rural areas, not always, but usually in rural areas, and usually women oriented. Again, there is no law that says that they have to be in rural areas only or they have to be women run only, but mostly in rural areas and women run. Again, not necessarily just to run businesses. They can also be to help each other. They can also be to collect money and then make sure that they can help them. But it cannot always be or does not always have to be for running a business. Let me give you a famous example. All of you, I'm sure most of you, if not all, would have at least heard, if not eaten, Lizzat Papad. Sorry, Lizzat Papad, not Z. Have you heard of this, or you have heard it or had it maybe? So Lizzat Papad is a prime example of a very successful self-help group. Women coming together, deciding to have a small business, and then you see all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but gradually it becomes bigger. That's a self-help group. If you have not heard of it, don't worry. It will not going to change the fact that you will become an IAS officer. Don't worry. Just an example of how self-help groups actually work. Now, self-help groups, SHG, have a lot of benefits attached to them. Because of them, a lot of interesting things have happened. They bring social integrity. What do you mean by that? So in the rural areas, in most of Indian rural places, we still have a problem of people discriminating on the basis of caste, religion, and other things. When you have a self-help group where people come together to form a group, it is all as equals. So usually it leads to discrimination going away. So the problem of discriminating and the problems of not seeing from the same eye point of view, that goes away. So it leads to lessening of or reducing discrimination. It brings gender equity. Why? Because most of them are women run, and when women become more financially independent, they start earning money on their own. That leads to them becoming more equal and more empowered as compared to the males. There have been multiple studies that have suggested that if you increase the earning capacity of a woman, it will have a much positive impact on the family as compared to a male earning member increasing his or her salary. It has been proven by multiple studies, because it is proven that when a female member of the family starts earning more, she will bring in more nutritious things in the kitchen, more green veggies, more fruits, better eating. So it has a positive impact on the entire family. Not saying that the males do not do that, but there has been multiple studies that have proven that increasing the salary by same amount of male versus female, you see in case of female, the entire family has a much more positive outcome. They also act as pressure groups. At a small scale, let's say in a village, when a self-help group becomes successful, they are able to run a business, they are able to earn money. It gives them a voice to now raise demands. I'll give you an example. If you are from Bihar, for example, Nitish Kumar banned alcohol in Bihar. Let's not go into illegally available or not, but Nitish Kumar in Bihar banned alcohol. One of the reasons why he did it was there was a lot of pressure built on the government from the female voters. So, ladies, female voters, they built a lot of pressure on the government that we do not want alcohol to be sold because this leads to domestic violence. And because of that, it led to the government of Bihar taking that decision. So, they also act as pressure groups when they become empowered. Similarly, they give voice to marginalized section. Similar kind of a point. When you start earning, when you start becoming financially independent, you have more voice. You have the ability to then speak up your mind. Financial inclusion, how? Let's say if you see a situation where self-help groups take a loan from the bank, and it does happen. There are multiple government schemes that encourage the self-help groups to take a loan from the bank, and they offer rate of interest lower than the usual rate of interest. Self-help groups take loan from the bank. It leads to financial inclusion. They are included in the banking system as well. Then there's a change in the consumption pattern as well. As I told you, more money coming in the house leads to changing consumption pattern. You eat more nutritious things. You eat more, malnutrition, the family usually goes away. And banking literacy also comes in related to this. When you go and take a loan, you maintain records, you maintain a record of profit and loss. How much are you earning? How much are you spending? That all leads to much more banking literacy, inclusion in the financial system. All this and some more are the benefits that the self-help groups usually have for the society. Now, India has had a long history of many self-help groups. Many of them have been recognized around the world for the great work that they have done. For example, during COVID-19 crisis especially, women self-help groups even were pointed out by the World Bank that they are doing a great job in India, helping the women, helping many people who are not able to earn now. One of the most successful self-help groups in India's history is Kudumbashri. I don't know how many of you have heard of it. This is one of the most famous self-help groups in India's history. It is a self-help group in Kerala. The interesting part is Kudumbashri was actually started by the government of Kerala. It was actually started by government of Kerala. It was their initiative, and then it has grown now to such a large extent that right now Kudumbashri has 43 lakh members, 43 lakh women members. So what do? They do a lot of stuff, giving training to women who become a part of it. Let's say giving training to them in tailoring, making or managing financial accounts, helping them to find a job, etc. Again, self-help groups have been extremely successful in certain cases in making sure that the women and the marginalized section of the society have a much better voice as compared to earlier. Having said that, there are also certain weaknesses of the self-help groups, which is why a lot of them have not been very successful. First, it is not necessary that only the poorest people or the weakest section in the society come and form a self-help group. Even when a self-help group is formed by some poor people, weak people, and they become successful, you will see outsiders coming in saying that now we will run it, we will take it over. So whenever you see some profit coming in, money coming in, people from all parts of the society will come in, try to take over. So it's not necessarily only the poorest people that are helped. Many of them have not given satisfactory result. There are certain success stories, Lizzat Papad, Kudumbashri, certain success stories. But for thousands and thousands of them, they are formed within a few months, they are dissolved because they are not doing their job properly or they are not being able to make any profit due to various reasons. One of the reasons is they lack the skill to complete. Now, what do you mean by this? Let's take a simple example. Let's say there's a self-help group that makes pickle. Now, when they are making a pickle, they are making it by hand. They don't have many machines, etc. So obviously, when you're doing something by hand, you don't have machines, your cost will be higher, right? Let's assume the self-help groups makes a pickle. They sell it at 130 rupees. Why? Because the cost is higher, they don't have machines, etc. They do everything manually. Then there's a big private company that sells a pickle at 100 rupees. Now imagine yourself, you go to supermarket to buy a pickle. Because you are a good-hearted person like me, because you want to help them, so you will buy this pickle. Don't worry, right? You will say, okay, don't worry, I want to support them, I will buy this. But how long will you continue this? After 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, you will also think, right, that let me save some money. You might do the good thing, philanthropic thing earlier in the beginning, that okay, I'll help them. But ultimately, you'll have to see, oh, this is 1+1. I will take 1+1. I will not go with this, right? Because you think, why am I the only one who's doing all the social service? Why not the government does social service? Right? That is how people think, and you are not wrong in thinking that. Ultimately, you also have the right to save some money and spend it where you require it more. So unless they start competing with price of the big players, they will be very difficult to sustain. Otherwise, maybe you have such a great quality product that even a higher price product will be sold. Like Lizzat Papad is not the cheapest papad, I know, because I do buy that. It's not the cheapest papad. There are cheaper options available, but it's good, so you buy that. But then it's not always the case. Either your quality is so good that you charge a higher price than usual and you still get away with it. But if that is not the case, you have to start competing, if not today, then after some time. They also don't have a lot of qualified personnel to help them with marketing, to help them with packaging, etc. All this is a specialist job. They don't have proper accounting practices. So especially when they, let's say, take a loan from the bank, many of them don't know how to maintain records, profit and loss, how to make sure that the charge sheet, not the charge sheet, they don't know how the accounts are maintained, the books are maintained, etc. Then they don't have a lot of resources, not a lot of funding. They might just club in resources that they have. If we're talking about poor rural women coming together, how many resources can they bring in? Not a lot. So they don't have a lot of investment to start. They are dependent on the NGOs. Now, what does it mean? A lot of times, what the NGOs do is, NGOs come in and train the self-help group workers on a certain skill set, try to start their business, and then they go. So that the NGOs can work with someone else. But till the time that the NGOs are working with the self-help group, giving them training, giving them skills, everything is fine. The moment that these NGOs now go ahead, that now we are going, this is where the decline starts. So as long as they have an external support of NGOs, everything is fine. After that, the decline now starts. Then we have the patriarchal mindset. What is patriarchal mindset? The moment a self-help group starts making money, the males will come in smelling that money. Oh, money, let me come and let me run that business. Because who are you? You can't run a business. You go and sit at home. I will run a business now. It does happen in a lot of these associations. Started by women, working well. All of a sudden, the men will come in that, oh, you don't know. It's a man's world. I will tell you how to run business. And that also leads to a decline, leads to a downfall of it. These are some of the issues, some of the weaknesses that self-help groups face, especially in our society. Now, there are a couple of practice questions which I asked you to think about, and I'm very sure most of you did not think about it yesterday because you are busy people. But anyway, so let's see. What were these two practice questions that we had? Let's see if we can actually give some points. If you did think about it, great. I am indebted to you for all my life. But if you did not, sorry. So the question is in front of you. The question is, and look at this very carefully. Multiplicity of various commissions for the vulnerable section of the society leads to the problems of overlapping jurisdiction and duplication of functions. Is it better to merge all the commissions into an umbrella human rights commission? Argue your case. Now, listen to me very, very, very carefully. What is the question saying? The question is making a simple argument that we have so many of the commission that we have just said. National Human Rights Commission, National Commission for Women, National Commission for Minorities, Then we have constitutional bodies, scheduled caste commission, scheduled tribe commission, backward classes, and a lot of these. So they are asking, is it better to merge all of them and have one single commission? Or is it better to just have them separated? Now, please understand something very carefully. In these kind of questions, where you are specifically clearly asked that you have to take one side. See, the question is asking you very clearly, is it better to merge or not? So, in this kind of an answer, you cannot think, oh, I will give points on both the sides because balanced view. No, they are not asking you for a balanced view right now. The question is very specifically, clearly asking you which side are you on and argue the case. So give reasons for your side. So your main body should have the reasons to support which side you are on, either to merge or not to merge, but you have to clearly state your side. What you can do is, in the concluding argument, maybe if you want, you can write one or two small points about the other side. But since the question is not asking about a balanced view, you have to clearly take one side. Please understand, this is very, very, very important. If you have a question, which, for example, let's say there's a question like that. The question says, it is better to have one commission rather than all the commissions, full stop, critically analyze, or critically examine, or discuss. Then they are not asking you to take a side. They are giving a statement and they are expecting you to tell both sides of the story. That yes, it should or it should not. But here they are very specifically asking you, take a side. So you can't evade taking a side thinking, no, I'll give a balanced view. No. Balanced view is not being asked here. They are specifically asking you to take a side. So you have to now decide which side you are on. And now understand, in these kind of questions, the number of marks that you get is not dependent on which side do you take. No side is right or no side is wrong. It depends on how you argue to your side. It depends on what pointers do you give. If you can justify whichever side you take, good marks. If you can't justify whichever side you take, not good marks. As simple as that. So rather than losing a lot of sleep over which side should I take, which is the right side, which is the wrong side, no. There is no one right or wrong side in these questions. You can just take one side, whichever side that you want, and see if you are able to write that answer or not. Let's see. So what we will do here is, we will do a crowdfunding here. Crowdfunding means I will get the answer out of you rather than me giving you the answer. So what we'll do is, let's make a table here. First, we will write points about yes, better to merge. And then we'll write points about no, don't merge. So now I want you to tell me points for this side. Yes, better to merge. Why? Start. Let's see. Better to merge. Why? Okay, I'll start writing whatever points I'm getting. First point I'm getting is better coordination. Efficiency. Let's see what are the other different points you are getting. Save resources, efficiency, same kind of a thing. Convenience, same kind of a thing. Funds, okay. Maybe funds, got it. Economical expenditure funds, same thing. Integrity, Esha, integrity can be ensured with other also. It's not that you can be integral only with one. Okay, Sahil has a good point. It goes with the government's logo or government's motto of maximum governance, minimum government. So maximum governance, minimum government. Let's see what else. Gender equality, fast work, less burden on judges. Anurag, not less burden on judges, but yes, I would, let's say less burden on CBI. So CBI, lesser burden maybe. What else? More trustful, single window. Accountability, Priyanka, can be ensured in others also. So tell me something which can be ensured if they merged together, basically. Cost, we have already written. Efficiency is a cost only. Okay, Himanshi has a point on vacancy. Maybe let's say vacancy. Vacancy can be addressed. Okay, you can stop now. Stop, 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 stop. Stop, 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 stop. Shh, 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 shh. Finger on your lips. Okay. So, okay. So so these are mainly the points on this side, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mainly these points right now. So, there is one side of the story which you have. Now, again, if you have some other pointers in your mind, absolutely go ahead with that. Not really a problem. But these are the major pointers that most of you would agree with. Better coordination. They can, for example, right now, let's take a very simple example. Let's say there is a woman who belongs to minority community, who is also, let's say, a scheduled caste. Then where does the women go? Does she go to women commission? Does she go to minority commission? Does she go to scheduled caste commission? No one knows. Or she can also go to human rights commission, because overall she's a human also. So does she go to human rights commission? Where does she go? So there's obviously a big overlap of where the person will go and where the person will not go. So it will be better for coordination, efficient, better use of funds also. Government size reduces, CBI burden will reduce, vacancy also which exists may be lesser. Now let's come to the other side of the story. What are the points for not merging? What do you think? Not merging. Why? People are ready. Okay, one, burdening will happen. Okay, got it. Specific problems, specific issues. Yes, good point. Issues are very different for different communities. Then one size doesn't fit all. Yeah, specific issues or one size doesn't fit all, whatever you want to write, same kind of a thing. Similar thing, one problem, not similar solutions. Got it, got it, got it. What else? What else? What else? What else? Why? Yeah, time consuming or time will be or time consuming. For example, if you have one single commission having thousands of cases, it will be much more time consuming, obviously. Then what else? Time consuming and pendency of cases, similar thing. Similar thing. Uh, yeah, reduce expertise, specific issues, similar kind of a thing. Okay, now you can stop. Stop, 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 stop. Shh. Shh. Stop, 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 stop. Stop. Wait, wait, wait. Now, I'll give you two other pointers that many people are not thinking about. Wait, 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 Baba, wait. I know you are all very intelligent, but wait. I'll give you two more pointers here. One pointer. Let's say you belong, let's say you are a scheduled caste, or you are a backward class person, or let's say scheduled tribe or whatever. Would you be more comfortable going to a commission specifically made for you, or would you be comfortable to go into a commission made for each and every issue? Think about that point of view. Would you think that my issues will be understood and they will be resolved better because I have a specific commission that is specifically made for me, or would I have some other one? So it will be more, so it will basically induce more confidence in the people, induce more confidence in the public. So people will be obviously more confident that, okay, I'm coming here to this specific commission, so it will induce more confidence. Now, one more thing that many people did not think about, there is an example in history that you can quote to argue your case. For example, we used to have one single commission for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. It was only in 2004 that it got divided to scheduled caste commission separate, scheduled tribe commission separate. So historically also, the government has realized that having one single commission for multiple issues may not work, and the government has actually made separate commissions for separate communities. So history also suggests that this point is important. History also suggests that merging them may not be able to address the specific issues, and having their separate commissions may be more efficient. So these are the points that you can have in don't merge part. Now, as I said earlier, it entirely depends upon you. Which side do you want to take? You have enough pointers on both the sides. What happens is that being there in the examination hall, you might not have a lot of points automatically come into your mind. So the suggestion in these cases usually is, when you see these questions, just think of which side are you getting the more points on. If your mind is working in such a manner that within the next 2 minutes you get more points about merging, then write about yes, merge them. Or within 2 minutes, if you get points about not merging, then go ahead with that. As I said, there is no right or wrong answer in this case. It is about how you justify the answer that you have taken, justify the approach that you have taken. So works either way. Just focus on how can you justify the approach that you have taken. That is a more important issue here. You have to very specifically take a side in the main body because the question is asking you for that. In the concluding part, you can give 1 or 2 pointers on the other side if really you want to, but you are asked specifically to argue your case in support of the points that you want. So focus on these points, either this, either that, whichever side that you want, but take one side very specifically. So again, not a difficult question to answer if you think about these points. Then we have one more. And again, as I said earlier, if you have more points in your mind, please go ahead, write them. I'm not saying these are the only pointers. If you think you have other points in the mind you want to quote, please go ahead. Not really a problem with that. One more question is about National Commission for Women. Let's see. Is the National Commission for Women able to strategize and tackle problems that women face at both public and private spheres? Give reasons in support of your answer. Now, in this kind of a question, you can give both positives and negatives. You are not specifically being asked to take one side only. You are just asked, do you think it has happened or not? So you can take positive and negative sides both. So for example, in the negative side, we have already given a lot of pointers in the PPT, issues about the funds, why they have not been able to work well. They are not constitutional in nature. What they do is only recommend these kind of pointers. They are dependent on CBI, etc. So these are pointers in negative. But let's talk about the positive ones for now. Let's see. Can you give me some positive pointers about National Commission for Women? Anything positive they may have done? Or you don't think there's anything positive they have done? What do you think? Anything positive? See, those who are saying women empowerment, you can't write a generic phrase. You can't write women empowerment. Women empowerment is what? What is the role that they have played in women empowerment? Just write specifically. Okay, so I'm getting a few answers. I'll add some from my point also. Guy, listen, wait. So, my suggestion is, when you write answer like these, be specific with your example, right? So you can't say they have increased women empowerment, they have increased women protection, they have increased women education. What is this? You write specific point that they have initiated this program due to which women education has improved. Then it's a good point. But writing a generic point, they have done this, they have done that. No. Write a specific point. Let's say that they have initiated this law because of which this has happened. They have done this because of which this has happened. So write specific examples. Only then you will get good marks in UPSC exam. Don't write generic stuff. Write specific examples. So a lot of you have been giving example of Vishakha guidelines. Yes, they played a major role in Vishakha guidelines. That is guidelines for sexual harassment of women at workplace, which led to the law also, the POSH Act. So again, they have played a major role there. Again, please don't give generic example like awareness about this, awareness about that. Give a specific example. Can you tell which program they are running for awareness? If not, please don't give that answer. What else? You can write about Urvashi. NAS Foundation is not related to this. Yes. You can write about the campaigns they have run against acid attacks. The campaigns they have run against acid attacks that has led to acid sales becoming very difficult. Selling of acid has become extremely difficult because of their role. They are the ones who have ensured that selling of acid becomes very difficult. I'll give you one more example. Have you heard of something called She Box? Have you heard of something called She Box? What is She Box? If you know this, what is She Box? Those who said yes in the chat, what is She Box exactly? So She Box is like a complaint box. So any women facing any problem at the workplace, there is a helpline number where they can call to file a complaint. This is called She Box. So it's a kind of a complaint box initiative for women. That has also worked well. So again, write about those initiatives where you have specific examples to quote. This is where your current affairs reading becomes important. I also showed you yesterday example of SOP that they have released. Remember? I'll just take you back here. We discussed about the fact that they release SOPs. Is it? Yep. So you can quote this example also. All these are things that you can quote. Again, please remember, don't just randomly quote a government scheme, assuming that National Commission for Women has done this. If you have read that the National Commission for Women has played a role in introducing that scheme, then please write that. But randomly, don't write every scheme related to women that it is a work of National Commission for Women. That is not what happens. So you can write this also. All these are examples that have been written in proving that yes, they have done certain good things. So both positives and negative points. In the conclusion, you can give a, let's say, a balanced approach. In the conclusion, you can write, as a statutory body, it plays an extremely important role in empowering women. However, the government still needs to resolve these issues, as mentioned above, to give it even more power. As simple as that. So again, this is what you can write. Just because there's a government scheme for women, don't automatically mention this here unless you know that National Commission for Women played a role. The question is not about government schemes. The question is about the role played by National Commission for Women. So please make sure, okay? Try and write these answers now that you have gotten this. Okay. There was one question that we did not paper. The answer is B. Why? Let's look at these carefully. First is wrong because the self-help group program was not started by SBI. It was originally started by NABARD. You will read about NABARD in detail in economics classes, or you would have read them already. Self-help group is an initiative of NABARD and not SBI. NABARD is a topic that you cover in economics. Second is true, when they take a loan from the bank, because they are a group, they have contributed individually. Every individual takes a guarantee, takes a responsibility for that loan. It's not one single individual, because they work on the principles of equal powers, equal responsibilities, equal duties. Then, regional rural banks and scheduled commercial banks also support the self-help groups. Yes, that is true. Second and third statements are true. The first one is wrong. And thus the answer here has to be B. Only two of these are correct. Perfect. Now, this is the beginning of module number 8. Before I do that, I'll quickly take up a few questions from your end, from whatever we had discussed in the last module. If you have any questions, please let me know. And then we'll start with a new module number 8. Sarup, yes. When you say banks support self-help groups, what you mean to say is that they can take loan from the bank, and the banks do give them loans. So yes. Rahul is saying, would we expect question from outside what we are doing in governance? Rahul, only from current affairs. If in current affairs something new, some new initiative comes up from the side of the government, you can expect question from that part. Static part, no. Shruti, no. This is the second last module. The last module is number 9. That will be on Friday. We have total of 9 modules. Those who are not sure, total of 9 modules. Anu is saying, on which basis government gives minority status to particular community? Anu, usually on population basis. So the government has said below 20% population would be minority. Shahid is saying money earned is equally distributed amongst the members of self-help groups. Yes, Shahid, equally distributed. If they want, they can keep some to reinvest again. But if some member takes out the money, it has to be equally divided only. Ashu is saying how not to exceed word limit. by not writing more than that. That is the only thing that I can suggest. Vikram, we don't cover constitutional bodies in governance. That is why. Perfect. Let's start then. Next is module number 8. Now, module number 8, we will be talking about few things. We'll start a discussion with the political parties. Political parties is something that you have already read in Indian polity. Okay. So, although we will glance over political parties, but very quickly, because again, this is something that you have already read in Indian polity. We'll be discussing different types of political parties: national, state parties, recognized party, registered party, etc. So, you have already discussed that. You already have discussed, or you already have read about electoral bond scheme. So, we will discuss a very short summary of that because you already know that. So, in the beginning, we'll be discussing political parties that you already know. So, kind of a revision. Then, the later class or the later half of the module will be about comparison of the constitution. Comparison of the constitution. So what we will be doing is we will be comparing India's constitution, the main provision, the main features of India's constitution with the constitution of some other countries, US, UK, France, Australia. We'll see how the constitution is different in India as compared to those parts of the world. In Indian polity, you had a very short discussion on that, comparing the constitution, but we'll have a more detailed discussion here about comparing India's constitution, the main features of India's constitution with those of others. Once we get to that, we'll read more about that. Let's start with political parties. So, you all know who the political parties are in India. You all know the political parties that exist around us. In simple terms, it's a group of people having same kind of ideas about how to take the country forward, or how to take the state forward, how to take the area forward. So people believing in same kind of ideas, similar kind of ideology, similar kind of thought process that this is what we should do to take the country forward. They come together to form a group which is called as a political party. So this political party runs different policies, they fight elections. All of you know what political parties are. It's not that I have to define it for you what political parties are. Now, let's talk about political systems in the world. Usually around the world, we see three types of systems usually. There is one party system, two party system, and then there's a multi-party system. Let's see pros and cons of this. Where do we stand? What can we learn from other systems? So, one party system, as the name suggests, where only one single party is allowed to exist. Primary example, China. China is a primary example. China has only one political party called the CCP. CCP is a communist or Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese Communist Party. There is no other party that is allowed. So basically, any country that is running on the ideology of communism has this ideology that only one political party is allowed, that is the Communist Party. It's very interesting kind of a system that they have in China. So the system is that the party owns the judiciary, the party owns the army. So China government or China as a country doesn't have an army. The Chinese army is also part of the Chinese Communist Party only. So when you have a system where you have one single political party as a communist country, what are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? First, the disadvantages. Very obvious disadvantage to the people. You don't have any other option. You can't pressurize the government. Like in India, why do pressure groups work? Or in USA, why are pressure groups successful? The entire idea of why pressure groups are successful in some countries is that they make the government believe that if you don't do this law, or if you don't make this law, people will not vote for you. That is the only reason why the government makes a law or doesn't make a law, because they know that they understand the point of view of votes. There is a joke in politics that you ask a politician what is 2 plus 2, their answer will be 4 votes. So everything that they have is in terms of votes and nothing else. So in a one party system, You would have no alternatives. So party also knows where will you go. You cannot go anywhere else. We are all fine. So obviously it's dominated by that. So the policies are not really something that they think of people. However, similar is the point that is an advantageous point also. Advantageous point means, for example, no freebies. No freebies. Why? Because you don't have to convince people, right? If you don't, in India, we have freebies. Why? Because people vote for those who give the most things free. Over there are no freebies required because where will you go and vote? Nowhere. The government can implement very tough policies also if they think it is in the interest of people. Like in India, I'll give you a simple example. Okay, let's take a simple example. If you travel by railways often, or if you used to travel by rail often, you will notice something. You will notice that in the last 10 or 15 years, the price of railway tickets has hardly increased, very hardly. During COVID, it did, but let's not talk about COVID. If you should look at, let's say, 10, 15 years ago, the train ticket price, now today, it's very comparable, not a high increase. Why? Everything else has become more expensive. Why have the railway prices not increased? Because the government's fear, if they increase the railway prices, people will hate the government, people will not vote for the government. If you go and book a railway ticket today, I have not booked it for some time, so I don't remember it is now also or not. But last time I booked a railway ticket, I noticed this. You go on IRCTC website, you book a railway ticket. There is a line that says Railways is only taking 57% of the cost from you. There used to be a line about few years ago. I don't remember that line now, but Railways is only taking 57% of the money from you. For example, if the cost of railways is 100 rupees, they will only charge you 57 rupees. Why? Is it good? It's not good. Because ultimately, if the railway is going into losses, who is paying for the losses? We are only paying from our taxes. So earlier, railway should have taken the money from those who are traveling in train. Now railway takes money from everyone. Why? Because you are paying taxes, so you have to pay, even if you don't go by train. So no government would want to increase the railway prices. Why? Because they don't want to anger the population. They don't want to anger the people who give them votes. So many committees have come in. So many committees have suggested that railway lacks money. We should have more money. We should have more ticket prices. But the government doesn't listen because they don't want to have this impression that we increase the railway prices. In China, they don't care about these things. Increase railway price, make it double. They don't care. What will the people do? Nothing. They'll have to come back to us only. They can implement a one-child policy knowing that where will people go? Nowhere. We are the only ones. So they have a one-party system. They have a one-party system. I remembered something. Okay, first a question. Sahil is asking, is it a democracy, one-party system? So Sahil, China calls itself a democracy. People of China do vote, but only within the party. But the world does not call China a democracy because in a democracy, people should have options. Only then we have a democracy. So world doesn't say it's a democracy. China says we are a democracy of our times. I remember something. So, and this is all real. A few years back, Xi Jinping came to India. Few years back, Xi Jinping came to India to meet our Prime Minister Modi. And when he came to India, the Doordarshan anchor said that 11th Jinping is in India. Doordarshan anchor, poor lady, she said 11th Jinping is in India. Now, she did not know this is not 11th. This is what we have been taught in our school, right? What is 11th? This is 11 only, right? So she said 11th Jinping is in India. And that poor lady, she was fired. She lost her job from Doordarshan. Anyways, no one watches Doordarshan, so I'm sure half of the people would not even have known what did she say. But because it got on Twitter and everywhere else, so the poor lady had to leave her job. She was the only one in the world who has the courage to stand up to Xi Jinping or 11th Jinping, whatever his name is. But she got fired. So again, this is all real. Anyway, let's come back. So basically, that is one party system. Good points that you have very tough policies which are in the favor of people in the long run. So whenever someone asks me, sir, why are we not developing the same as China? They got independence at the same time. The reason is this: you will never be able to live in a country which really has these kind of policies. In China, if the Chinese government comes to know you are in school, 5-year-old kid, Chinese government comes to know that you are very good in athletics, they will take you. They will take you with them. That now we will train him. Meet your son after 20 years when he wins the Olympic gold. Forget about your kid. Tata, bye bye. We are taking the kid. We will train him. Would you want to live in that country? Not really. In the COVID-19 crisis, if a mother had COVID and the mother had, and this is real, mother had a 3-month-old child, government came and took away the child. They said, once you cure your COVID, you will bring the child back. Otherwise, say bye-bye to your child. What will you do? Nothing. Nothing, because it is only one party government. So that's what they do. So now understand, would you want to live in that country just because you're developing at a higher price or a higher rate? Not really. This development comes at a cost, and you do not, and it's a cost that you don't want to pay. I don't want to pay, at least. So that's a one-party system. Now comes a two-party system. When we say two-party system, the first image that comes in everyone's mind is the US. The first image that comes to your mind is US or UK. That's the first image that comes to your mind, US or UK, right? Now understand something. There is no country in the world whose constitution says that there will be only two parties. US constitution does not say there will be only two parties. British constitution does not say there will be only two parties. No constitution says this. So what is a two-party system? Two-party system is a system where two main parties have become so powerful that third parties hardly exist. Although they are allowed to exist. Like in USA, the two main parties are Democrats and the Republicans. There are two main parties, but they have some small little parties called the Green Party. They have something called the Liberal Party, etc. So they do exist. It's not that they don't exist or they can't exist, but people don't vote for them. So there are hardly any. In UK also, UK has two main parties, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. But then they also have some small little parties here and there. So no constitution in the world says that there will be only two. There can be more than two also, but just that they have evolved into two-party systems. I'll tell you something very interesting. In India's Constituent Assembly, if you look at the debates that took place in our Constituent Assembly, there is a lecture or there is a speech given by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in which he says that I expect India to evolve into a two-party system. He has said that I think India will evolve into a two-party system. And who knows, we may, because we are still a very young country right now. This evolution may take place after some years, some decades. It may happen, but right now it has not happened. Now, what is good and what is bad with the two-party system? Let's talk about the good part first. Good part, stable government. Stable government, no coalition governments, nothing that 5 parties come together to form the government, going here and there, jumping parties. No. Jumping parties, etc. is very rare. You are a very stable government. Second, very clear ideology. Very clear ideology. For example, in the US, everyone clearly knows the ideology of Republican Party. What do they think? Everyone clearly knows the ideology of the Democrat Party. For example, Republican Party is a party that does not want any immigration. They don't want outsiders. They are very conservative. They want to reduce taxes on business people. They don't want to give a lot of other things to people. They are very, let's say, against people coming in from outside, basically. Democrats, very liberal. They are supported by the black population. They support the migrants coming in. They support increasing taxes on the businessmen, etc. So different kind of party. So it's very clear. Not like India that today you say something, tomorrow you join hands with the other party, then you say this is the worst party of all time, then you all of a sudden become a partner of that. So in India, it's very boiled up system. In two-party systems, the good part is you have very clear idea of which is what ideology. The problem in the two-party system is, again, lack of options. Imagine you go and have a dinner, there are only two options available. Would you be happy? No, we want a buffet, right? We want a buffet, right? Something like this, some here, some there, until we have a plate that is overflowing with different types of food. Italian at the bottom layer, Thai at the middle layer, and then Chinese at the top layer, and then some Indian salad at the top, and then you put some chutney at the top, and then you eat, and then you like, very good food, right? So in India, we like more options. Now, if you look at, yeah, which I just told my cuisines, you can add whatever cuisine that you want. That can be your choice of cuisine. I just Baba, it's my dish. Let me choose my cuisine, right? It's my plate. You take your plate and you choose whatever cuisine you want. Now, come back. So basically, two-party system. The problem here is that you don't have a lot of options. In America, the voters have to choose at least one of the two. If they choose a third party, it is impossible for a third party to come to power. Doesn't happen. Now comes India. India's system is similar to many developing countries. So, most developing countries in the world have a multi party system. Look at India, look at our neighboring countries, look at Bangladesh, look at Sri Lanka, look at Pakistan, look at Nepal. Most developing world would have a multi party system. Many parties to choose from. If you don't like a party, open up your own party. That is also not a problem. I don't like something, I'll make my own food. Fine, do that. No problem with that also. Everybody has some space. There are coalition governments here and there going around. One day you are enemies, other day you are friends, next day you are again enemies. So you never know. The problem in our system is no clear ideology. No clear ideology. One time you will be criticizing someone, other time the same person in your party becomes the best person ever. There are so many examples of that. There is unstable government in a multi-party system, coalition governments, not very stable. But the good part again is buffet. Something for everyone. And no one will go home hungry, right? No one can say I did not like anything. You will like something. That is how the multi-party systems work. So there are different systems around the world having their own pros and their own cons. One other thing that you keep on hearing time and time again in the news media, in the newspaper, are the words called left wing and right wing. These are words that you keep on hearing in the media time and time again. This is a left party, this is a right party, this is a left wing party, right wing party. What exactly is this? What does it mean? How does it work? Let's try and understand this. First of all, please understand extreme on either of the two sides, extreme left and extreme right, both are very bad. Extreme bad and extreme right both are violent. Both of these use violence when they go to the extreme. Let's take a simple example. What do right parties want, or what is right ideology, or what do left parties want? In simple terms, right party means conservative. That is the simplest definition. Conservative means they don't want any change. If some custom traditions have been going on for many decades, many centuries, they are fine. They are happy with that. If something did not happen 100 years ago, should not happen right now. For example, let's take a simple example. When you demand for rights of the transgenders, you demand same-sex marriage, they will not be happy with that because they don't want that. They think that no, our customs, traditions going on for many years are good. We don't want to change. That is called conservative. Then we have left parties. Left parties are more liberal. They want change. Change how? Devolution of power. So they think that powerful people have been dominating for many years. It is time to give power to the labor, time to give power to the farmer, time to give power to a tribal, basically change a lot of things. Devolve power, change some things. Both of these are fine. There is not a problem with that. You're absolutely in your right to decide which side you choose. The problem is when it goes to the extreme. if the right party say, or the right leaning person says that if you change something, I will kill you. If you change my culture, I will kill you. Then it becomes extreme. It is wrong. On the other hand, left wing, if they say you don't change, I will kill you. You don't give me power, I will kill you. Again, extreme. So extremes of both are wrong. Extremes of both are bad. In India, for example, you will hear a word time and time again used by the government, LWE. Have you heard this? In internal security, maybe LWE. The government uses this in their policy making, LWE. What is LWE? LWE means left wing extremism. It's left wing extremism. Left wing extremism. Basically, Naxalism, etc. That if you don't change, if you don't give us the power, we will kill you. On the other hand, conservative or right wing would be if you change, then we will kill you. Again, you are correct on either of the two sides if you are a bit here and there. This is center. You can be towards the left, you can be towards right. For example, in the US, it is very clear that Democrats are towards the left and Republicans are towards the right. It's very clear. In India, again, very clear. You can say BJP slightly towards the right, Congress slightly towards the left. But they keep on changing on issue to issue basis. Like in India, because we have a multi-party system, there is no one clear set ideology that you can attach to a party. Like on some issues, BJP may be towards the right, conservative, but on some issues, they may be very liberal also, changing many things. For example, privatizing a lot of things, going ahead, introducing reforms. Similarly, Congress, not necessarily always liberal, they can be conservative also. That is why, as I said, in India, there is no one pattern which you can trace that this party is right, this party is left. In India, the mainstream political parties can go jump from here to here. That is the beauty of multi-party system. I will go where the best food is. I don't mind whichever way I go. I will go where I get the best food. As simple as that. I don't have anything else to choose. So in India, it's difficult to choose and say this is right, this is left, but both are fine as long as you're not going towards the extreme of it. You go towards the extreme end, that becomes a problem. So again, you will not get a question on the ideologies. Don't worry. You will not get a question on the ideologies. But because you see these words right and left time and time again in the news, in the newspaper, so you should know and understand. When you say right parties, what do you mean? When you say left parties, what do you mean? Again, it is absolutely fine. You can be a right-leaning person, left-leaning person, all is fine. But to the extreme, that becomes a problematic part now. Now comes the party system in India. Now, I'm sure all of you have read this in polity. So what we will do is, we will go through it, but in slightly more brief, because you have read it already. So we'll just go through in brief very quickly. And after that, if you have some doubts, I'll take those up. But all of you have read about this, the party system in India. So basically, in India, if you want to start a political party, what do you do? First step, you have to register a political party. In India, we have a law called Representation of People Act 1951. We have a law called Representation of People's Act 1951. It talks about elections in India, talks about the party system in India. It gives the sole power to the Election Commission of India for everything related to the political parties, giving them recognition, giving them symbol, every single thing. So if you want to open up a political party, what do? First step, you go to Election Commission, you ask them, I want to register my party. What they will ask you these things. You submit all of them, you become a political party. India has the largest number of registered political parties in the entire world, thousands of them. Most of them you will never have even heard the name. Why? Most of them don't even fight elections. Because registering a political party does not take a lot of money. Fighting elections takes a lot of money. So not all of them have fought elections. Very few of them actually fight elections. But registration, it's an easy process. You can come and you can register. If you register a political party, again, you have to take an oath, like the ministers take an oath, MPs take an oath. You also take an oath to register the political party. The oath is simple. You will abide by the constitution, etc. You don't have to remember this. Tell me this. Let's say you go and open up a political party and you tell the election commission, sir, I want this symbol. This is a drawing I made. This is the only drawing I know. Fish. This used to be my best drawing when I was in school. I did not know anything else how to draw. So let's say you go to the election commission, you say, I want this symbol. Is it allowed or is it not allowed? I'll make a tongue also. Allowed or not allowed? Can it happen? Yes, it cannot happen. It cannot happen. No. Why it cannot not happen? Because the election commission gives the symbol. So basically, if you go and you want to have a political party or have a political party with a election symbol, the election commission of India already has a symbol list of symbols which are empty. They will give me an option to choose from them. So you can't take any symbol that you want. It is them that will decide. So again, doesn't matter how great your drawing is like me, or how worse your drawing is like Michelangelo, but you cannot have your own symbol. The election commission decide whether or not they would get you a symbol or not. I'll give you I'll tell you something very interesting. I'll give you a simple homework today, and it will take just 10 seconds. Search for what was the Congress symbol. Congress did not have this symbol always. The symbol that you see was not always a Congress symbol. It's very interesting story about how they had different symbols, how it changed. Even the BJP did not have this symbol. There's a story of BJP also, how they wanted some symbols. There was nothing available, so they went with Lotus only because other symbol that they wanted, it were not available. So it's a very fascinating story of how symbols change. I'll tell you something else also. I'll tell you something else. So today we live in the age of internet. We have all this media. Today, when you go to vote in the elections, you all know which is the party symbol, right? Listen to this very carefully. You all know which is the party symbol because you have media and everything. When India had its first few elections, imagine 1951-52. India's first Lok Sabha election. Very few people had a television. There was radio. Very few people read newspapers. So how would the government or how would the party tell the people where to vote? Because most of India was illiterate. Do you know what happened? One of the tricks that political parties used was we had a lot of cows and buffaloes going around. So party symbols were painted on cows and buffaloes so that when they roam around everywhere, you will see, oh, this is the symbol of the party. So that you recognize that and then you vote. This was something that we did. That parties did not have pamphlets or those kind of things. We did not have printing technology as such. How many pamphlets will you make by hand? So you basically painted them on cows and buffaloes. They were roaming all around. So people recognize that, oh yes, this is the party symbol. So it's a very fascinating story. And it's all true. It has all happened. You will not find this in the NCERT books. You have to read some better books for that. Not this NCERT book, but you'll find a lot of interesting stories about how Indian election actually happened. Again, if you are interested, after your syllabus is over, read India After Gandhi. It talks a lot about these things, how India actually started its election journey, why election was conducted. Very fascinating stories. Anyway, let's come back. So, the political parties, how do they work? They have to spend a lot of money to actually work. If you see how they earn money, governments obviously don't give money to political parties. Political parties are entirely dependent on donations. Now, the problem is because RTIs don't cover political parties, there has always been allegation that political parties have been a source of a lot of black money in the economy. For example, before 2017, the law in India was you could donate maximum cash up to 20,000 to a political party. So maximum 20,000 cash you could give to political party before 2017. And the interesting part was political party did not have to keep an account of that. That was the most interesting part. Political party only have to keep an account of those donations which are above 20,000. So when the election commission used to ask them, for example, or someone used to ask them, how do you get so much money, crores and crores of rupees? They used to say, our supporters are very good. They come to us, they give 19,000 each, and then they go away. It's like they give 19,000 each and then they go away, so we don't maintain a record. So again, this has always been a big loophole. The loophole still remains, but at least in 2017, there was a new scheme launched, as all of you know, called the Electoral Bond Scheme, which all of you have read about. You read in Polity also, Current Affairs also. Electoral Bond Scheme 2018. What did it say? The simple idea is now the maximum that you can donate to a political party is rupees 2,000. Beyond, if you go beyond 2,000, you can't do in cash. You have to buy electoral bond. What is that? You go to State Bank of India, give them the money, they will give you a piece of paper called electoral bond. You deposit that bond to the political party, they will deposit in their bank account, and that is how the money will be transferred to them. This is the simple idea of electoral bonds. All of you would have read this. Now, the political parties, the donation that they get, it is not open to RTI, but they still have to give a record to the Election Commission of India. So they give a record to Election Commission, how much donation are they getting, how much money do they have. If they don't give that record to the Election Commission of India, then they have to pay taxes on the donation that they get. If they deposit the report to the Election Commission of India on time, that this is the money we are getting, this is the donation we are getting, then the political parties don't have to pay any taxes on the donation that they get. Otherwise, they have to pay income tax on the donation that they get. The electoral bond scheme, again, something that all of you know. You can buy these bonds from SBI, the State Bank of India. These bonds are available in the multiples of 1,000, 10,000, 1 lakh, 10 lakh, etc. These are called, as you know, bearer bonds, right? All of you have read this. These are called bearer bonds, means it does not have your name. Bearer bond simply means, let's say you have a 2,000 rupee note. Sorry, not 2,000, it is gone. Let's say you have a 500 rupee note. So 500 rupee note does not have your name on it, right? 500 rupee note is yours because you are holding that note. When someone else holds that note, it will be his or hers. So someone who is holding it, they are the only ones who are the owners. Similar is the case with electoral bond. Electoral bonds, again, they don't have your name. You just take it, you submit your documents in the SBI branch, they will give you the bonds. You go to your party within 15 days, and they will then deposit in their bank account, and they will then get the money in their bank account on the same day. These are electoral bonds. Now, political parties, opposition political parties especially, don't like this. Many opposition parties, except the BJP obviously, have gone to the Supreme Court against electoral bond scheme. They say it is unfavorable, it is unfair to them. Why? The ruling party gets most of the donations. Also, since the SBI comes under the government of India only, the ruling party can get to know who bought the bond, who took the bond, they can track the person, but we cannot. So there are allegations. The Supreme Court has still not given any stay order on the electoral bonds. We still have electoral bonds in India. Something that you all have read about. So I'm not going into a lot of deep detail about the electoral bonds. Now coming to the other part, again, something that you have already studied about political parties. The first step to make a political party is to register. The second step is recognition. In order to get your political party recognized, you need to fight elections. You need to fulfill some criteria. If you fulfill that criteria, you become a national or a state party. The difference between the two is, if you are a national party, then the benefits that you get are for all elections in India. Benefits are for all elections. Elections in any state, country-wise, Lok Sabha elections, you get benefits in every election if you're a national political party. If you're a state party, you only get benefits in that state. Benefits in that state only. Now, there is a criteria that you have of how to become a national party, which all of you would have read in polity. You should remember this. You have to fulfill one of these three criterias. We'll talk about benefit in just a. Don't worry, we'll come to benefit. We'll come to benefit. Don't worry. We'll come to benefit. Don't worry. And I'll not skip the benefit part. Don't worry. I know everyone wants benefits, so I'll tell you the benefit. Don't worry. Anyway, so basically, one of these three you fulfill, you become a national party, as you all know. Then, for becoming a state party, there are 5 criterias. One of these 5 have to be fulfilled, as you've read in Indian polity. 1, 2, 3, 4. Which is the 5th one not written here? Sorry, which is the 5th criteria not written here? Again, the question is, in order to become a state party, you have 5 criterias. 4 are written here. Number 1, number 2, number 3 criteria, and number 4 criteria. Which is the 5th criteria to become a state party? Okay, Payal, good job. Okay, Abhishek, good job. No. Let me see who can get the correct answer. Only 2 correct answers so far. Beauty has given the correct answer. Ajay also. Kawana also. 5th criteria to become a state recognized party. Which is the 5th criteria? All of you should know. You have already read this part. So you should know, right? Anyone else without Googling? Okay, Nirmala, good job. 5th one is you should get 8% votes in the state election. No seats, number of seats doesn't matter, just 8% votes in state elections. This is the 5th criteria which you have already read and you should remember. So for national party, you fulfill one of the 3 criteria to become a national party. For becoming a state party, you fulfill any of these 5 criteria and you become a state party, right? So that is how it works. Now, the biggest part, because everyone was interested in the benefits, so let's come to that. I am assuming you have not read about the benefits. Even if you have, don't worry. We will discuss this in detail. Himanshi, 8% votes and not seats. Let's discuss the benefits that you get. If you become a recognized party, what is the benefit that you get as compared to not being a recognized party? First benefit, your party symbol is exclusively reserved for you. If you're a national party, obviously in the entire country, the symbol will not be given to anyone else. Otherwise, if you're not a recognized party, you are not in fighting elections, the election commission may give the symbol to someone else as well. So your party symbol gets reserved for only you, no one else will be given. Second, only one proposer required for filing elections. What do you mean by this? So when you go and fight elections, you have to fill up the nomination form. You need to have someone to sign on the form who is a voter in that constituency only. That person will be called a proposer. Proposer means someone who says that I am proposing this person's name to fight elections. I am supporting the person to fight elections. If you are a candidate of a recognized party, then you would need only one proposer. Only one person can sign and you are good to go. If you are from a non-recognized party, you require 10 proposers at least. You require 10 proposers. So for recognized party, only one person from that constituency who is a voter who will sign as a proposer. On the other hand, 10 proposers if you're a non-recognized party candidate. Third, you get electoral rolls, 2 sets of these free of cost. Electoral roll means list of voters who are voting in the election so that you can go to their house, encourage them to vote for you, encourage them by giving them something, I don't know, whatever they like. Such a beautiful sari for your wife, such a beautiful gift for your husband. Anyway, so basically, go house to house for voting, for ensuring that they are able to convince people to fight elections, etc. I'll tell you something, and don't write this in the exam, but I know this is true. So, a very close friend of mine, we were in college together, very close friend of mine. After college, he went to Pune and he worked in Pune. And he told me a story. I will not tell you which election and which party. Okay, whichever election it was, because I don't want you to make an assumption. There was an election and there was a party. Okay, whichever party it was. So he was living in a flat with three other guys. So there were four guys living together, all of them engineers in good companies. So he told me that one night before the elections, some people came into his house with jeep and all, and they told them that you have to be ready tomorrow. We will come to pick you up to go and vote. So they said we don't even have voter ID card of Pune. We don't live in Pune. We have voter ID card of some other place. So they said you don't worry about that. We will come pick you up in the morning. Be ready at 9 a.m. We'll put you in the jeep. You go and vote for our party. And these are bulky people with a revolver also kept, not to threaten, but these things don't require threatening, right? So 9 a.m. they came, they sent these people, they took them to the polling station, they asked them to vote, and then they dropped them back. So it happens. It happens. Which party, I will not tell. Which election, I will not tell. But it is real. It happens. So again, you can make your assumption. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is, just imagine something like this happening in a big city. Now imagine what would be the case in rural areas. If you live in a village, you all know that. If you live in a village, do you know before every election, the sarpanch or the head of the panchayat, they get a lot of money. Do you know why? Because they promise the MLA that don't worry, I ensure 500 votes from my village. So from my village, 500 people will come and vote for your party. In return, I want this much money. It does happen. It is a reality, unfortunately. It does happen, done by all parties. It's something that does happen. You don't like it, but it does happen. Anyways, let's come back. The other thing, if you're a recognized party, you get a recognition. Then you also get to have free ads on government run media like Doordarshan and Akashvani, which no one watches anyway, but you can still put ads because no ad hurts, right? So you can have Doordarshan, Akashvani free ads. Maybe that lady would be watching, the poor lady who got fired. Only she would be watching to see if someone else commits the same complaint. So, anyways, so they can have free ads for some time without any money being charged specifically on government and media. Now, two most important advantages, two which I think are the most important. One, they can nominate up to 40 star campaigners. Now, what are star campaigners and how does it work? So, the idea is if you are fighting elections, doesn't matter how rich you are, you have a limit on how much money you are allowed to spend. Again, legally. Illegally, you can do whatever you want in India. Legally, you are allowed to spend a certain amount of money. So, for example, in a Lok Sabha election, in a Lok Sabha constituency, you can only spend 77 lakh per constituency, not more than that. Now, for common people like you and me, we think 77 lakhs such a huge amount, but it's not a huge amount. Trust me, it's not a huge amount. Let me show you an example. Okay, let me show you an example of why is it not such a huge amount. Okay, Delhi's population, it is over 2 crores. So for the sake of, let's say, calculation, ease of calculation, let's assume population 2.1 crore. It is over 2 crore for sure. Delhi has 7 Lok Sabha seats. You divide that by 7. So on an average, you can say it has about 30 lakh people per Lok Sabha seat. Okay? 30 lakh people per Lok Sabha seat. Just an assumption. Now, on 30 lakh people, you can spend 77 lakh. Means 2.5 rupees per person. What will you give to that person in 2.5 rupees? Tell me. You can't even give a samosa. This is the samosa, please vote for me. You can't even give that. So now imagine the money that you are thinking of. So 77 lakh seem like a very big amount, but if you start calculating it, it's not that big of an amount for a India scale population, right? So there are a lot of loopholes that exist because of which they overspend. I will not go into those loopholes because you're not paying me for that. So there are loopholes that exist because of which they go beyond that. But anyways, so basically what happens is you have a limit that this is how much you can spend. Then recognized parties can name 40 people as their star campaigners. Star campaigner can be anyone. Outside celebrities, they can invite. Akshay Kumar will come and campaign. You can have your internal leaders also, like BJP will say that Mr. Modi is our star campaigner, Mr. Shah is our star campaigner. So they can do that also. Whoever you want, 40 people as a star campaigner. What is the logic behind it? When a star campaigner goes and campaigns for someone, that please vote for this person, star campaigner expenses will not be counted. The expenses of star campaign of traveling, organizing this event, that expense won't be counted in your 77 lakh limit. So your 77 lakh limit is separate. Star campaigner, their expense will not be counted. That is the idea. So they can travel, they can have road shows, etc. The expense of throwing rose petals, none of that will be counted, right? That's a very expensive thing. So you don't count that. This 77 lakh per constituency is separate. For non-recognized parties, what do they get? Non-recognized parties can name 20 star campaigners. So they also get star campaigner, but only 20. Recognized parties can name 40. Others can name 20. That is how it works. Some people are getting a lot confused in the third point. Electoral roll means list of voters in your area. In your area, who are the voters? So that you can go to their houses and campaign. That, see, please vote for us. This is called electoral roll. So list of people who are the voters of the area, to such list, so that they can then approach the voter. That is the idea. Now, there is one other advantage that is not written here. There is one other advantage that is not written here. That advantage is, and it's a pretty sad advantage, but it is an advantage. There's a sad advantage also. The advantage is, what if your candidate dies? Then what happens? Let's take a simple example. Let's assume that elections are to be held on 20th of December. Okay? Just a simple example. This is the date of the election, right? Now, usually what do? Usually, let's say 10-15 days before the elections, you close the date for the nomination. So let us assume 10th of December was the last day that you could file nominations, right? Last day for nomination. Now, in between this, let's assume a candidate dies. Then what happens? If the candidate who dies in between was from a recognized party, then recognized party gets two options. One option is name a replacement. You choose that, you name a replacement if you want, and elections will go on. If you think you don't want to do that, you request postponing the elections for that particular place. Postpone the elections for that particular area and it will be postponed. Only that particular seat will be postponed. If it is from a non-recognized party, what happens? This happens. Because you're non-recognized party, nothing happens, election will continue. No candidate, election will continue. So basically, non-recognized party, nothing, no advantage, recognized party, this. I will give you an example. If you go back and look at the result of 2019 Lok Sabha elections, in 2019 Lok Sabha elections, the result was announced in 542 seats and not 543. Why? One of the candidate of BJP from Rajasthan had passed away just few days before the election. So BJP had asked to postpone that election, and that is why that particular seat did not get the result. That is an advantage only for recognized parties. And as I said earlier, this is a very significant advantage. This and the star campaigner one. These are two of the most significant advantages that they usually get which the non-recognized parties do not actually get. If you are a national recognized party, you get these advantages nationally in all the elections, wherever the elections are happening. If you are a state party, then you get these benefits only in those state elections where you are the recognized party. Like, for example, Samajwadi Party is a recognized party in UP. So they will only get these benefits when UP elections are happening. In the entire country also, when Lok Sabha elections are happening, only within UP they get this advantage, not anywhere else. That's a difference between a national party and a state party. National party gets this advantage everywhere, but the state party only in their state. This was about the political parties. Before I go ahead to the other part, I'll quickly take up a few questions and then we'll set the ground rule of what we are going to be discussing now. I have a question from Ambesh. Please explain difference between communism and socialism in detail. You want to go in detail? Without going into detail, because detailed topic is a 3-hour topic. So I'll tell you the very basic difference between the two, communism and socialism. So basically the idea is communism is supposed to be the last stage. If you look at the theory of Karl Marx in itself is a long topic. If you look at the theory of Karl Marx said the last stage of a successful society will be communism. Socialism will be the second last stage. The difference mainly is, again, a copybook definition. I'm not saying how China uses it, how other countries use it. The copybook definition is socialism means every resource is owned and controlled by the government. That is socialism. The government controls the industry, the government controls the land, government controls every occupation, government decides everything, how much salary will you get, how much money will you earn, everything. Not just this, the government will decide how many cars will be produced in the country, everything. That is socialism. As per Karl Marx, when socialism is successful, because the end goal of socialism was to have an egalitarian society where everyone is absolutely equal. Karl Marx had said that the end goal of socialism is everyone has to be equal. So he said, when we have socialism for many years, that government controls everything, we will enter a stage where everything is equal. When everything is equal, there will be no role of the government left. Because according to the theory of Karl Marx, the only job of the government is to protect inequality, because the government favors the rich people. So he thought, once we have socialism, once we have a society which is all equal, egalitarian, there is no requirement of the government will dissolve. And then everything will be owned by the people. That is called communism, which never happened. That is his ideal next last stage. Communism is supposed to be the last goal. That when the government achieves the purpose of everything being equal, egalitarian society, there is no need of the government now, because the government is required only when there is inequality. Everyone is equal. Let's remove the government. It is all, everyone controls everything. That is called communism. It has never happened. So please don't tell me China is a communist country, etc. They have their own definition. Let's not go into that. Esha is saying difference between fascism and Nazism. Fascism, Nazism are the same things. Fascism is the ideology that says one true leader, one supreme leader, everyone is below him. Nazi was the name of the party in Germany, to which Hitler belonged. Nazi is not an ideology. Nazi was the name of a party. Fascism is the ideology. Nazi party also followed the same ideology as fascism. So there's no difference between the two as such. Why do I see more polity question than governance question for some reasons? You remember it's not a polity class, right? Okay, I'll take some more. Abhishek is saying difference between Democrat and Republicans. Abhishek, are you talking about Democrat and Republican as in the ideology, or the political parties in US? Political parties in US just have those names. Ashu, this is a question that you can search on Google. This is a question that you can search on Election Commission website. So I would advise you to do that. If not, file an RTI, spend 10 rupees. You will get to know which party is national party, which party is not national party. So 10 rupees, 10 rupees. Okay. Vivek is saying, why are some parties blamed as fascist regime? Basically, fascism is an ideology that is a totalitarian ideology where one single person will be the true supreme leader. Whatever he says, everyone will accept. So when you want to criticize a party or a government, you can say it's a fascist government. Basically, fascism is something like a dictatorship. Okay, should we go ahead then? Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, let's go ahead then. Now we are coming back to comparison of the Indian constitution with the constitution of other countries in the world. Now listen to this very carefully. You are all preparing for the Indian UPSC exam, Indian civil services, so it is obvious that we don't have to go into as much detail of other constitutions as we did with India. Indian constitution, we studied in lot more detail. You studied everything in polity about Indian constitution, all the articles, etc. For others, you don't have to go into so much detail, so don't worry about that. Usually, you will see the kind of questions that we will get from this part. Mostly 80% of the times, by the way, the question is not very regular from this part. If you look at previous year papers of UPSC, on an average, you get one question from this part every 4 to 5 years. So every 4 to 5 years, they ask one question from this part. Not more than that, not very regular. There was a question asked on this part last year. And I'll tell you what the question was. But there was a question asked last year. Usually don't expect a lot of questions from this part. Most questions that have come in from this part are ones which are based on India and US comparison. Mostly 80% questions are from this only, India-US comparison. So that is why, adhering to that trend, what we will be doing is we will be studying the American Constitution and its comparison with India in a lot more detail as compared to the other countries. So with the American Constitution, we will study a lot more in detail how their government works, election president, parliament power, judiciary power, etc., etc. Obviously not as detailed as India's, but for US, we'll go into slight bit of more detail. For the other ones, UK, France, Australia, we'll not go into that much of a detail because the questions that have been asked on others are very generic. So I'll tell you what the questions were, but mostly questions have always been from America only. Okay, before we do that, Jay has a question, difference between political party and legislative party. Let's assume we're talking about the BJP right now. Who is the president of the BJP? Mr. JP Nadda. So if the president of the party takes a decision, that is called the political party. Legislative party means head of the BJP within the parliament. That will be Mr. Modi. So Prime Minister Modi will be the legislative head because he is the head of the party within the parliament. Political party means overall party who is at the official position of the president. That is the difference between legislative party and the political party. There was something in the Supreme Court. Anyway, let's go ahead and start our discussion with the American Constitution. Now, you might have heard bits and pieces about American Constitution, maybe in some polity class, maybe comparing the Constitution. But let's go into slight more detail of how American Constitution is in comparison to India. Now, America has a very interesting kind of a history. I get very surprised when people ask for a break. The class is recorded. You can take a break whenever you want, see the recording afterwards. Why do you have to depend on me for a break? Go and take a break whenever you want. You anyways get a recorded version of the class, right? So go and take a break. Don't ask me, don't worry. I give you general consent if you know what that means, if you attended the class. So you take the break, no problem. Come back when you want. You can watch a recording anyways, right? Okay, let's go ahead then. So let's come back to the US Constitution. Now, US has a very interesting kind of a history. US was also a colony of the British. So basically, what happened was, if this is UK, a small island, this is the Atlantic Ocean in between, and this is the American continent. I did not mean to, but it's perfect. USA written inside of it. Perfect. So basically, what happened was British have always had this problem that they have a very small country. I don't know how many of you know this. When Britain used to be this great colonial power, most of the world maps were published in Britain only. So in their world maps, they specifically showed the size of Britain much larger than what it is. Do you know that? Because they wanted the world to know, see, this is how powerful we are. But which was not true. They actually published it in a way that Britain looks very magnified, much bigger than what it actually is, because they wanted to have this in the world. So Britain had that plan. They thought that if someone is a criminal in our country, or someone is a person who we don't want, we will not let them remain in our country. Why do we have to waste space by making jails and all? Let's move the people out of our country who are criminals. So what did they do? They went across the Atlantic. They saw this huge continent that you see here, and they settled colonies here one by one. One by one, British settled colonies. There were 13 colonies that were set up by the British. The idea of the simple unwanted people, convicts, go away, we don't want them. Now, these colonies later on decided to work together, fight together against the British, gained independence. After getting independence, these 13 decided, let us come together to form a country. That is why it is called United States of America. So America was the name of the continent. States decided we'll come together. So it became the United States of America. With time, they started shifting towards this side. They started occupying other areas also. One by one, other areas were occupied, etc. So again, this is how the American independence started. America had its constitution drafted in 1787, and it came into force 1789. The most interesting thing about the American constitution is it is very, very, very short. Very short. Just a few pages, handful of pages. Why? Because they did something very interesting. First, they decided that because states came first and country came later on, the states will have more power. So they decided that every state will have their own constitution. So every state in US has their own constitution. So they thought there is no point of making a very big, bulky constitution at the center government level. Let us make a small constitution. Let's start. And America's constitution is the world's first written constitution that continues even today. World's first written constitution. The British constitution is much older, but not in a written form. So American constitution, the world's first written constitution, very short, because they thought that we trust our future politicians. They thought in the future, politicians will come in, they will change the constitution and do whatever they want. Let's start the country with a very basic constitution. In India, our Constituent Assembly did not trust the future politicians. They thought we will make the entire constitution word by word, because you don't know what politicians will come in the future. You will not know what will they write. Let us take 3 years, not a problem, but we will make the entire constitution. We will write everything in detail. No hurry. But USA, they thought, let the future generations decide. We will not force anything upon them. So they decided we'll make a constitution for every state. Center constitution, not in detail, very few things will be written. So what are the important features of the American Constitution? First, very brief, as I said, just a few pages. They allowed the future governments to come in. And the reason also is they don't have one constitution, right? They have 1 plus 50, because each state has their own constitution. So they have a total of 51 constitutions actually. So obviously center government constitution will be much, much more brief. Then it's a written constitution. The world's first written constitution continues even today. They have a separate constitution for center and state, as I said. And it's a very rigid constitution. Usually constitutions can be rigid or flexible, depending upon how easy or difficult it is to amend them. How easy or difficult it is to amend. If a constitution is easy to amend, easy to change, it's a flexible constitution like Britain. Britain constitution very easy, no special process required. US very rigid. If you look at how the US constitution is amended, it requires special majority of parliament just like our constitution. So special majority of both houses, two-third majority that is. Then one by one, it goes to every state. Two-third states also have to say yes on all the amendments. So out of 50, 33 states have to say yes only, then an amendment will be carried out. And this entire process of two-third states saying yes has to be done within 7 years. Within 7 years, it has to be done. Otherwise, it will lapse within 7 years. That is why right now America is close to completing 250 years of independence, 250. The number of amendments that they have is just 27. Just 27 amendments so far. In close to 250 years of history, just 27 amendments. The last one was in 1992. After that, no amendments. Compare that with India. If you look at on average, in America, we have had one amendment every 10 years. Lump sum, 10 years, one amendment. In India, 1.5 amendment every year. 1.5 amendment lump sum every year. So again, you see that I'm not saying one is bad, one is good. It's just comparison. It's not like saying sun is bad, moon is good. No, it's a comparison. So I'm not criticizing something. I'm just saying the difference between the two. So their constitution is extremely, extremely rigid, very difficult to change. Our constitution, India, is a mix of the two. In India, some parts of the constitution are easy to change, some other parts are difficult to change. So it's a mix of the two. Then they have separation of powers just like India. Separation of power means, like India, they also have three parts of the government: legislative, executive, and judiciary. Separation of powers, just like in India, legislative makes the law, executive implements the law, judiciary will see whether or not the law is good or not. They have the Bill of Rights, from where we took idea of fundamental rights. So India's idea of fundamental rights, we took it from the Bill of Rights. The content is not the same. They have given different rights to their citizens. We have given different, but the idea is same. The idea is, and the content is not the same. For example, they have given fundamental right to keep a weapon. We don't give that fundamental right. Otherwise, half of our population will be wiped out in the next day when you get a weapon. So again, fundamental right, the idea we have taken from there, but the content is different. Supremacy of the constitution, just like India. Just like India, the constitution is the supreme law of the land. What the constitution says, you can do that only. Just like India, we have checks and balances. For example, in India, Parliament's law can be struck down by the court. Same with US. Supreme Court judges can be removed by the Parliament. Same with US. President of the US can be removed by the President or by the Parliament. Same with US and India. So India also has a concept of checks and balances. Power of the legislature, they are checked by the judiciary. Power of the judiciary, checked by the legislature. Executive can be removed by the legislature. So all of these exist in India and in the US as well. This is a slightly more bigger topic, the last one. So let's take a break and we'll continue from here. Otherwise, many people looks like this die of starvation. So let's take a break. Is an indestructible union of indestructible states. Now, what do you mean by that? The simple idea is in American federal system, the state governments have been given a lot of power. So many powers that if you look at any state in America, the center government does not have the authority to change their border, to change their name, to change their boundary, anything. Thus, the state boundaries, everything with the state has to be done by American states only. So, America is an indestructible union of indestructible states. Their states cannot be changed if the state government of America does not want that. In India, we can do that. In India, in fact, the parliament has the power. They don't even have to listen to the states. So, if you want to define India, India can be defined as an indestructible union of destructible states. So, India can be defined as an indestructible union of destructible states. Again, destructible is not in a negative sense. Destructible in the sense that the states, their boundaries can be changed, their names can be changed, their area can be changed, new states can be carved out, states can be merged, whatever. The parliament can do that, but in the US, since the states are very powerful, they have a lot of autonomy, they decide. But in India, that is not true. That is a big difference. Another very big difference that we have in between USA and America is this: judicial supremacy amongst the other organs of the state. Now, there are three organs of the state: legislative, that is the parliament, executive, that is the ministers, and the judiciary. In India, these are all considered equal. In India, we say that they are equal. We can't say that one of them has more powers over the other, the second has lesser powers. No. In India, all of them are equal. In the US, however, that is not true. In the US, it is very well established that judicial supremacy will be supreme. Now, how do they decide that? In India, we took the concept of judicial review from America only. So, our Indian Supreme Court, High Courts have judicial review. We took it from America only. American Supreme Court also has judicial review. But American Supreme Court power of judicial review is much, much, much wider. When the American Supreme Court decides to strike down a law, they can decide that on a variety of bases following the due process of law. For example, in India, when the Supreme Court has to decide whether to allow a certain law or not to allow a certain law, our Supreme Court sees whether or not this law is against the Constitution. If the law goes against the Constitution, our Supreme Court will strike it down. In America, the American Supreme Court can strike down the law on a lot of other bases. For example, what was the intention behind passing the law? What will be the impact of the law? Would it go against our culture? Would it have a negative impact in the long run? All these things can be considered by the American Supreme Court. So their powers to strike down a law in America are much wider, much more discretionary as compared to India. So it is fair to say that in America, out of all the three arms, judiciary has a lot more powers because they can strike down the laws for a variety of reasons. Not just this. The other part of the problem in America is not a problem, however, sorry. A feature in America is they don't have retirement age of judges. Like in America, in the Supreme Court, judges can work up to 85, 90 years of age. So they have a very long tenure. Imagine a judge being appointed to the Supreme Court when he's only 50 or even 55. He or she may spend 35, 40 years in the Supreme Court. So when they have such a long tenure, they get a lot more powers to take these decisions. America has a federal form of government. India also has a federal form of government, but not the same. In their federal form of government, the states are considered more powerful than the center. The states are considered more powerful than the center. The states have a lot more power as compared to center. In India, it is the opposite. In India, states obviously have lesser power. The idea is very simple. If you look at American federal structure, it is called as coming together federalism. It is called as coming together federalism. I just told you the story of how America got created. So the states came together to form a country. There was no America as a country that existed earlier. States came together, 13 of them decided, okay, we'll form a country. So America is the example of coming together of the states. What about India? How is India defined? Indian federalism is holding together. It is called as holding together of the states, holding together federalism. Why? Because in our logic, the country always existed first. After that, the states were carved out, they are being held together. So, this is how India and American federalism are different. America has a presidential form of government. There are mainly two forms of government in democracies around the world, mostly either the presidential form of government or parliamentary form of government. India has a parliamentary form of government, meaning that in India, executive is a part of the legislative. If you want to become a minister in India, you have to become a member of parliament. In India, executive, that is the ministers, are a part of the legislative. On the other hand, if you look at America, in America, these are separate. In America, minister, which they call the secretary, by the way, in America, ministers cannot be members of parliament. In America, the members of parliament are separate and the ministers are separate. This is how the American system works in the presidential form of government. For example, once the American president wins the election, he can name anyone as his minister. He can name his friends, his family, anyone he wants, he can name them as the ministers. Because the ministers are not the members of the parliament. That is how it works in America because they have a presidential form of government, while we in India follow a parliamentary form of government. Then America has dual citizenship. What does it mean? In America, you are not just the citizen of the American as a country. In America, you are citizen of a state and you are citizen of America. In India, as Shri Shah Rukh Khan had said in Chak De, you play for India, you don't play for your state. Remember? So if you're not watched that movie, don't worry about that. In India, we have single citizenship. In India, you only have citizenship of the country. You reside in a state, you have residency of a state, you have a domicile of a state, that is fine. But if you look at how the government of India works, how our constitution works, you are only a citizen of India and not of any particular state. Now, about the parliament. American parliament is called the Congress. Just like India, it is bicameral in nature. Bicameral means two houses, just like India. You don't have to remember these small details. These are not ours. Don't worry. Small little details are not ours because this is not a part of the prelim syllabus anyway. This part is only asked in the mains exam. In the mains exam, you are asked about very broad questions, not really number of members, qualification, that is not required. So you don't have to focus a lot on the numbers part. America, like India and many other countries around the world, has a bicameral legislature, means two houses, upper house and the lower house. Lower house is called House of Representatives. Upper house is called the Senate. Now, this is very interesting in many ways. I'll tell you some of the interesting things that exist here which don't exist in many countries. When America was making their constitution, there were different debates that they had on various reasons. One big debate that they had was big versus small states. Let's imagine India's case. Let's say UP versus Goa. UP would say seats should be given to every state on the basis of their population. UP would say we have worked so hard to increase our population. Now you can't give us lesser seats, right? You have to give us more seats because based on population, you give us the seats. That is what they will say. What about Goa? Would they like it? They would not like it. They would say, no, give equal seats to everyone. In India, what have we done? In India, both in Lok Sabha and in the Rajya Sabha, we have given seats only on the basis of population. So UP, because of all their hard work, they have the most seats in Lok Sabha also and in Rajya Sabha also. Great job. But in America, there was a compromise. The compromise was lower house has seats on the basis of population. In lower house, they have seats on the basis of population. In upper house, they have equal seats for all the states, that is 2 seats each. Doesn't matter what the size of the state is, doesn't matter what the population is, just 2 seats each. So Senate, 100 seats because 50 states. House of Reps, lower house, 435 because of the lower house on the basis of population. Now, other interesting part is, just like in India, our vice president is the ex-official chairman of the Rajya Sabha. Similarly, in the US, their vice president is the chairman of the Senate. Similar kind of a thing. One other difference that America has with most other democracies in the world is about the upper house. Now, listen to this very carefully. In most countries where they have a bicameral legislature, means 2 houses, be it India, Britain, France, Japan, Australia, Germany, all of these have 2 houses. Whenever you have 2 houses, the common trend across the world is commonly upper house is weaker. Commonly, upper house is given lesser powers. Commonly, this is the trend because in the lower house, people directly elect them, so they are given more powers. Upper house usually half nominated, half from somewhere else. Like in Rajya Sabha also, we have indirect elections. So Rajya Sabha has slightly lesser power when it comes to money bill, etc., etc. America is an exception. America is probably the only country that has a very powerful upper house, much more powerful than the lower house. In fact, the American upper house is said to be the most powerful upper house in the world. Senate. How does it work? Let me give you an example. So basically, in Senate, President of the US appoints higher officials. So President of the US, for example, will decide who is the next Supreme Court judge. President of the US will decide who will be the American ambassador to other places. President of the US decides who will be their ministers, anything. All those appointments of the president have to be confirmed by the Senate. Not just this. If an American president signs on any international treaty, it is not automatically adopted. Senate has to pass that treaty, only then it will be adopted. So Senate in that sense is a very powerful upper house, which is a very unusual exception. In most countries, you don't have this kind of a thing. In most countries, you see upper house being lesser powerful and lower house being more powerful. Now coming to the big daddy of all, the president of the US. How is it elected? How is it that the US president is different as compared to ours? US president, because US is a presidential form of government, so obviously US president will be very different, will have a lot of powers. Now, in America, if you see, in order to become the president, you have to be a natural born citizen. What does it mean? In India, if you look at eligibility criteria for any post, you will just see citizen of India. How you become a citizen of India does not matter. You can become citizen of India by birth, not a problem. By naturalization, not a problem. Registration, not a problem. You by maybe your territory became a part of India, not a problem. Anything, you can become a president, not a problem. Because all of these are just citizens of India. In America, that is not true. You have to be a citizen by birth. If you're born somewhere else and then you took American citizenship, you cannot become the president. That is why, if you follow American politics, you will know when Barack Obama was the president or was contesting president election, the Republican Party made it a big deal spreading rumor that he's born in Kenya. He's not born in US. He's born in Kenya. They started spreading this rumor, this propaganda. He has family connections to Kenya, and then they said no, he's born in Kenya, etc. So again, the person has to be a born citizen of US. Number one. Second, 35 years of age, fine. Then American resident for at least 14 years. So you have to reside in America at least 14 years before the election. It's not that you are living somewhere else and fighting here. Interestingly, election and vice president elections are held simultaneously. So let's say you want to fight American president election, you have to choose a partner with you. So you fight in team. Let's say when Joe Biden was fighting the elections, he chose Kamala Harris that please fight the election with me. So those who voted for Joe Biden are voting for both of these together. Other team, there was, let's say, Donald Trump. So he will fight the election along with a candidate that was Mike Pence, who will be his vice president. So if they win together. If they lose together. So president, vice president, these elections happen simultaneously. It is the same vote that is being given to the team. It's not for one person, it's a team that actually gets the vote from the people. Now coming to the most interesting part. For the next few minutes, for the next 10 minutes, your life is going to change. Just kidding. For the next 10 minutes, I just don't type anything because I want you to just listen to this. It can get slightly complex. So that is why, please, for the next 10 minutes, don't type anything. I know you're always curious, full of questions. Relevant or irrelevant doesn't really matter for you. But anyway, don't type anything for the next 10 minutes. Ask after 10 minutes. We are not going anywhere. Okay. Let's start with the American president election. How is the election of the president of America held? It would be very easy for you to understand this election if you compare this with India's Lok Sabha elections. Although it is very different, I'll tell you the difference also as we go ahead. But try and form an image of how India's Lok Sabha elections are held, and it will be pretty easier for you to understand. Now, in order to have president election, they divide the entire country into 538 constituencies. They divide them into 538 constituencies. There is a logic why 538. The logic is 435 seats are in the House of Representatives, that is the lower house. 100 seats are in the Senate, that is the upper house. And 3 seats are considered as capital, Washington, D.C. So they consider 3 seats for that, and then they add it up and they become 538. Okay, that's a logic behind why 538. Now, if you are fighting president election, you can win an election if you get 270 seats. Because the half of 538, if you divide that, basically the majority mark will be 270. So you need to get 270 seats. Now let's assume that voting starts to happen. You are a common citizen. If you want Republicans to vote, or if you want the Republican candidate to win, you vote for the Republican. You want the Democrat candidate to win, you vote for the Democrat. As simple as that, not a rocket science. If a candidate gets 270 seats, they will win the election. Full stop. But what if no candidate gets 270 seats? Because what can happen is, usually there are only 2 political parties in the US, as I said. There is the Democrat, there is a Republican. So usually one of them gets the majority. However, there may be a case a third party can come in, get only small seats. Let's take a example. Let's assume Republicans get 250 seats. Democrats, let's say they get 260 seats. And then there's third party, let's say the Green Party candidate, they got what? 28 seats. Something like this can happen, right? Possible. Then what happens? If no president or no candidate got 270 seats in this scenario, the House of Representatives, they decide who will be the president. In this case, a House of Representatives, that is the lower house, will decide who will become the president. Out of these three, they can choose anyone. They can even choose this. So they can choose whoever they want. I'm still not over, so still don't type. Your homework for today will be to search and tell me, has it ever happened in American history? And don't, I know you copy paste things, don't Google right now. Just search after the class, has it ever happened in American history that the House of Representatives have had to decide? Anyway, we are still not over. Please wait. We are still not over. Now, there are a few other complexities that happen here. There are a few other complexities that happen. I don't know which part of please don't type you don't understand, but fine. It's a free country. Do whatever you want. So let's come to basically some of the other technicalities in the election. If you actually see, no, I will not repeat because you are typing. So if you look at the technicalities here are first, the president election of the US, the president election and the parliament elections are different. They are not held together. They are not held together. Now, please understand what I'm trying to say. It is complex. Some of you might not be able to understand it. So please listen to me. At least do this favor to me. Now, the election that I told you is not a parliamentary election. It's just a president election. Meaning that, let's assume 260 people from Democrat won the seat. They are not members of parliament of Democrat Party. Who are these 260 people? They were just dummy candidates of the Democrat Party. They are called electors. They are just dummy candidates. They are not members of parliament. So it's not that these 260 members will become members of parliament. No, their only job was that their name was written on the voter list. People voted for them, that they are Democrats, so we'll vote for them. We are Republican, we'll vote for them. They are not members of American Congress or American Parliament. Those elections happen separately. This is a method of election of the president. Let's take another example so that you can understand maybe more easily. In 2024, there will be Lok Sabha elections. If you want Prime Minister Modi to again have another term, you will vote for a BJP candidate. Simple. If you want Mr. Rahul Gandhi to become the Prime Minister, you can vote for a Congress candidate. Simple. Because whichever party gets the majority, their person will become the Prime Minister, right? As simple as that. Let's assume you voted and the same Prime Minister continues. Okay? In this case, what will happen is the people that you voted for members of parliament, they will not become members of parliament. There is no role of them. This was just a method to choose the prime minister. Similarly, in this president election, what you are doing is, what American people are doing is, they are choosing their president through basically a voter or voting for someone who is from their party. But these are not members of American parliament. American parliament elections happen separately. That is why in America, president is separate and the parliament is separate. In America, for example, president can be from a different party, and in the parliament, some other party can have the majority. Like when Barack Obama was the president of the US, Barack Obama was a Democrat, and at his time, the parliament had a majority of the Republicans. So it may happen because the parliament elections are otherwise and the president elections are otherwise. So again, this is how the American president election takes place. People are choosing their candidate directly. You don't see it on TV. On TV, it just looks like less you are voting for the president. Fine. But there's an intermediary in between. There's an intermediary in between who you are voting for. That is because you want to vote for that party. If your question is, why are these dummy candidates here? Maybe file an RTI to America. They will tell you. I don't know why they made this system. So sorry to disappoint you, but I can't tell you why they made this system. Because again, maybe if I was teaching for American civil service, I would tell you. But this is the system. UPSC also will not ask you why they made this system. They will ask you to compare the system of India and America. So as long as you know how it works, good to go. You don't have to go into why it is like that, because it is like that. It is their country, right? Allow them to make the laws that they want. Why do you want to interfere? This is how the American president elections take place. I'll repeat it in very brief because a lot of you were typing and I know your names and I know how it works because you are the members of your own mind. I'll repeat it one more time because you can't understand instructions. In order to have the president election, the entire country is divided into 538 parts. In these 538 parts, common people vote. If you want to have a Democrat president, you vote for a Democrat candidate. If you want to have a Republican president, you vote for a Republican. The people you are voting for don't become members of parliament. They are just dummy candidates. Whoever you vote for, their role is nothing. They are just representatives of their party. Whichever candidate gets 270 wins the election. If no candidate gets 270, then the House of Representatives decide who will be the American president. And they can decide from any of the people who fought the election, can be from the lowest party, can be from the highest party, can be from the middle, whatever. This is how the American president election takes place. You want to go into more detail of it? Be my guest, do a whole research. Let me know also if you find an answer. Why is this the system? But I'll stick to what the UPSC demands, and this is what the UPSC demands. Again, do your own research if you want to, but that is how the American president election takes place. Now, I am removing that ban on typing, which most people did not really agree to. You can type whatever you want. I'll continue the teaching part now. Now, coming to the removal of the president. Now, if you look at the removal part of the president of America, it's pretty interesting. And I'll tell you the most interesting part. Same words can have a different meaning in different countries. For example, we have a word called impeachment. So if you say in India, for example, if I say Indian president has been impeached, what is the first thought in your mind? If I say Indian president has been impeached, you will say president has been removed, right? That we don't have the president at his post, it has been removed, right? In America, that is not true. In America, that is not true. So in America, what happens is, in America, it's a two-step process. It's a two-step process if you want to remove the president. I'll come into that in just a bit. So the reason why American president can be removed, let's first go into that. Treason, that is basically conspiring against your own country. So conspiracy against your own country, or basically sedition, something like that. Taking a bribery or other high crimes. What are other high crimes? There is no definition of that. No clarity. What are other high crimes? There is a lot of debate in American politics about what is other high crime, but there is no definition of what are other high crimes. Now, how is the process? The process starts at the lower house, that is the House of Representatives. If it passes in this house, it is called impeachment. If it passes in the lower house, it is called impeachment. In the lower house, it requires absolute majority. So basically half of the members, half plus one, it can pass easily. It is called impeachment. Donald Trump was impeached, but was never removed, because impeachment is just the first step. It doesn't mean removed. Bill Clinton also was impeached. So impeachment has happened multiple times in America. Impeachment is at the first level. It doesn't mean removal of the president. It is, I won't say common, but it has happened in US. But the final decision happens at the upper house, that is Senate. Senate is where trial is conducted. Senate acts as a judge, as an entire judicial system. They then hear the case. You require 2/3 majority to remove the president in the Senate. It has never happened. For Donald Trump also, there was this impeachment that was successful. It went to Senate, not successful. Bill Clinton also not successful. So far, no American president has been removed from the post. They have been impeached, but they have not been removed so far. In India also, as you know, the same is the case, but in America also, same is the case. The word impeachment is different, please remember, because you might see many headlines that say Donald Trump was impeached, which is true. He was impeached, but he was not removed, because these are different things, impeachment and removal. In India, there's the same kind of a thing. Their law-making process the same as India. In India also, when you read in polity about the passing of the bill, the three stages: first reading stage, you introduce a bill; second reading stage goes to committee; third stage, very similar. No difference, so don't worry about that. The difference is here. There is two big difference in the working of the parliament. One, joint sitting difference, and second is a veto difference. Let's see. First is the joint sitting difference. Now in India also we have a joint sitting provision. But the problem in Indian joint sitting is Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, both of them will sit together. So Lok Sabha will obviously have an upper hand, right? Lok Sabha has higher number of members, so the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha sit together. They will have an upper hand. In America, they have found a solution to this. When they have a joint meeting, they have equal numbers of members from both the houses. For example, let's say they decide, let's have 50-50 members each, so that there's a balance between the two. Otherwise, the Senate will be less powerful, lower house will be more powerful. So they have equal number of members from both the house and not all of them. Not just this, it is also in equal proportion to seats. For example, let's say in the Senate, 60% members are from Democrat Party. So from the Senate, those people who go in the joint meeting, 60% have to be Democrats only. So which party has how many percentage of seats in the overall house? That is a percentage of seats that they get in the joint sitting as well. So joint sitting slightly different as compared to India. And so is the veto power. The veto power that the American president has is slightly different as compared to India. How? As you know, in India's case, president has absolute veto, suspensive veto, pocket veto, right? In case of America, it's slightly different. First, qualified veto. You would have read about this in polity, but I'll repeat that. In India, president has suspensive veto. Suspensive veto means the president of India can send the bill back to the parliament. They have to pass it again. Either make change, don't make change, doesn't matter, but pass again, send it back the second time. When it comes the second time, the president will have to sign on it, right? Qualified veto again means American president will send the bill back, but now when the parliament passes the bill again, the parliament will have to pass by a higher majority. So last time, for example, let's say in the Senate, 52 members voted for the bill. Now more than 52 have to vote. Not just 52, more than this have to vote. That is called qualified veto. So you send it back, and now it is required to be passed again by a higher majority. Other interesting part is the pocket veto. In India, as you know, the Indian president has no time limit to sign on the bill, right? So in India, uh, Kaushik, you can refresh, it becomes better. So Vivek, US Congress means parliament. In US, parliament is called Congress. So in India, as you know, Indian president has no time limit. Indian president has a lot of time. India as a country has a lot of time. No issues. In America, that is not the case. In America, the American president gets 10 days to pass the bill or to sign on the bill. What if American president does not sign in 10 days? On the 11th day, the bill is passed automatically. On the 11th day, the bill will be passed automatically. So 10 days you get. If you sign, great. If you don't sign, it is passed automatically. It's like that money bill for Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha gets 14 days. If you do something, great. If you don't, it will anyways pass. So similar to that. Now, there is something very interesting that you have to understand here. A big difference between India and America about the bill passing. So let me just make a new slide here. A big difference between India and America when it comes to passing of the bill. In America, when a session ends, the bill will end. Like, we have 3 sessions of parliament every year. We have the budget session, the monsoon session, the winter session. Once the session ends, nothing happens to the bill. The bill will continue, carry forward to the next session, right? In America, that is not true. In America, if the session comes to an end, the bill will end. From the next session, start the bill once again. So here is a loophole for the American president. Let's say American president gets a bill, and at this time, less than 10 days remain in the session. Less than 10 days remain in the session. Let's take this example. Let's say today is 28th of June. The US president got the bill, and the session ends on the 5th of July. So he knows there are less than 10 days remaining. So he does not sign on the bill. Session ends, the bill is automatically lapsed. Understood? This is how the only way in which he can use the veto power. I'll repeat once again. American president gets a maximum of 10 days to sign on the bill. They don't sign on the 10 days, 11th day it is automatically passed. The only loophole that he has is because the bills end when the session ends. So if the American president gets the bill when less than 10 days were remaining in the session, so the American president can wait, let the session end, the bill is automatically gone. Hip hip hooray. That is how the American president can use veto. That is why you see what is written here. Maximum period is 10 days. Pocket veto is for only for 10 days because on 11th day it is automatically passed. So on 10 days, you have to hope that the parliament session ends, otherwise there is no veto. Now, a very interesting thing about American parliament, something called filibuster. A lot of people in India, including me, I won't say everyone else, including me, we criticize our parliament, right? For not doing enough, for not being productive enough. Let me tell you what filibuster is. And as you can see, very serious. I've stood up also, so it's very serious, right? So, so I'll tell you what is filibuster, and then you can decide whether our parliament is better or their parliament is better. So the story is, there used to be a time in America when, apart from these two parties, some small parties may win 1 or 2 seats in the parliament. When a party used to win 1 or 2 seats in the parliament, the problem was their members did not get any time to speak. Whenever they spoke for 2 minutes, someone used to cut them. They had no support. So people did not have time to speak, especially the third, fourth parties. So they made a rule. The rule is, and listen to this very carefully, the rule is no one can interrupt the member from speaking until the member himself or herself stops to speak. If a member starts speaking, you cannot interrupt the member and stop them from speaking. They can speak until they want. Now what happens? Let's assume in the Senate, Democrats have introduced a bill. Republicans don't want the bill to be passed, so what will they do? A Republican member will get up and start reading a book. Trust me. Start reading any random book. Oh, this has happened. This happened. Start reciting a poem. Start telling a story. Any random thing. Why? Because until they stop, they cannot be interrupted. They themselves have to stop, and it continues for hours and hours and hours. This is called filibuster. And all sorts of things have been spoken. You go on YouTube, just search filibuster videos, and you will see people speak all sorts of things. Like, yesterday I got up at 8 a.m. It was a beautiful sunny weather. Then I went to have breakfast. This is what I had in my breakfast. Then I took my students to the school. This is what happened. Everyone will leave the parliament. Who wants to hear this? People will leave the parliament. They will like, okay, you speak. People speak for hours and hours and hours. And they speak till the end of the day. And then next day, again, they resume because it was their turn. So they will again resume. Why? So that the session comes to an end and the bill is gone. This is called filibuster. In America, and this is a rule in Senate only, by the way, only Senate. In America, people criticize their Senate so much that Senate doesn't pass any bill for many, many months, many years. Why? Filibuster. It has become so bad now. It has become so bad now that, for example, today Democrats introduce a bill. Republicans will just say, they just had to say that I will filibuster. They don't even have to speak. They will just say, I will filibuster, and the bill ends automatically. This is a situation that has now become. They don't even have to speak. They will just say, I will filibuster. I am warning you. I'll tell you a long story. Remove the bill, and they remove the bill. This is parliament of the most advanced country in the world, parliament of the oldest democracy in the world. That is how it works. Pyle is asking why don't they change the rule? I don't know, Pyle. I wish I was that knowledgeable, but I don't know. Maybe it suits them. Why would they change the law? That suits them. So weird things happen in parliaments around the world. Let's just say our parliament is not that bad. Okay, let's just say that. Some of the other ending things about the American Constitution is difference in the judicial system. So if you look at India, India has an integrated judiciary. When you say integrated, that means we have Supreme Court and High Court, but it's not that cases are divided. For example, in India, it is not like if you break a state law, then you go to High Court, central law, you go to Supreme Court. No, it's an integrated judicial system. In America, they have a dual judicial system. Dual means separate courts for state and separate for center. Center basically means federal courts. So what they call federal court, they mean center government courts. So if you break center government law, if you have a problem with center government constitution, then you go to federal courts. If you have a state government law problem, if you break a state government law, you have broken the state government constitution, then you go to state courts. So it's different in that sense. It's not the same. In US, they have a dual judicial system divided between center and the state. In India, again, similar, we have the same one. Again, the logic is because in America, states want much more autonomy, states want much more independence, so they have been given so much independence that you can even have this. You can even have your own courts, not really a problem with that. In India, we do not have that. In the end, one important part about American judiciary, no retirement age for judges. They have no retirement age. With this, they have tried to control the problem of not having enough judges, because in India, retirement age is also one of the reasons why we always lack judges. At 65 years of age, today, people are so young. Imagine Shah Rukh, Salman, etc. entering 60s. Would you say after 5 years retire? Not really, right? So just imagine that. Look at our Prime Minister. If our Prime Minister would have been a judge, he would have retired so early. Just imagine. Are they not fit? They are fit. If you are fit enough to run the country, how are you not fit enough to be in the Supreme Court? I will never see the logic to that. I don't see any logic. You are fit enough to make people millionaires in Crorepati, but you are not fit enough to run a Supreme Court. So I don't agree to that. There have been many suggestions that the retirement age should increase from 65. See, 65 used to be retirement age when the quality of life was not that great. Nowadays, 65 years old will defeat you in a race if they want to. So you don't want to have that retirement age. But again, for some reason, the law is not changing. But in US, they don't have retirement age as such. That was the American Constitution. Now, a couple of things very quickly. First, you can ask whatever questions you have from the American Constitution, but I'll try and answer some of them. Secondly, as I said earlier as well, we will go into a lot of detail of American Constitution as we did. You will see with other constitutions, we will not go into that much detail because that is not required. The questions usually are not asked from others. Questions are mostly basically focused on the American one. So we went into a lot more detail of that. Others, not that much of a detail. Okay, a few questions very quickly. Asmita is saying India too have courts at the state level. How is it different? No, Asmita, you're not understanding. We have courts at the state level, but does it mean that if you break a state government law, you go to that court, or you break a central government law, you go to a different court? No. You have a district court, but doesn't matter you broke a central government law or a state government law, you go to the same court, right? That is what I mean to say. Then Rahul is saying if Kamala Harris doesn't want to fight, then don't fight. Who can force you to fight elections? Sahil, yes, America does have emergency provision, but they're very unlike India. They're very different, not like India. Himanshu saying if more than 52 members don't vote, then what? Nothing will happen to the bill. Nothing will happen to the bill. Bill will be dead. What else? Garima, presidential form of government, as I had said, presidential form of government is a form of government where president gets most of the powers, executive and the legislative are different. You can be a minister, you should not be a member of parliament to become a minister. In India, ministers are members of parliament only. Binita is saying, why America? Binita, what is your question? Why America what? I can't answer a two-word question, right? Vishal is saying, why filibuster still continues? Because Vishal, politicians like it. They misuse the law for their own good. Why would they change it? You might not like filibuster, so you want to change it. They like it. Why would they change it? Politicians like it. They don't want to change it. Those who are asking me president election question mark, please see the recorded version. I can't repeat the entire president election. That will take a lot more time. That's the reason why you get a recorded version of this. See the recorded version. Enjoy hearing me time and time again about how the president election of America is held. Okay. One last question. Binita is saying why American Constitution is so rigid. Because Binita, in American federal form, states have been given a lot of power. Without the consent of the states, they did not want that our constitution of the country should change. So it's very rigid. You require most of the states also to say yes. Anyways, Sahil, yes, senators are now directly elected. Earlier, senators were nominated by the state governor. Now they're directly elected. Let's go back now. The next constitution that we want to study is the United Kingdom British Constitution. You will see a lot of features of British Constitution similar to India because we were under the British rule, so we took a lot of things from British Constitution to India. There are some differences also, but there are a lot of things you will see the same, like the form of government, powers of prime minister, parliamentary form of government, etc. Now, if you actually see the British system, first important feature, and all of you have remembered this now, Britain doesn't have any written constitution. There's no written constitution as such. But written constitution does not mean no constitution. What they say is that we have old traditions, customs, we have our laws, we call them together as a constitution. So they say we have a constitution, it's not just in the written form. One very important document that is said to be the beginning of this is the Magna Carta. Magna Carta 1215. What exactly is Magna Carta? So Britain has had a parliament for a very long time. But mostly, if you look at the British history, basically, kings have always had most of the power. They have never given power to their parliament. 1215, Magna Carta was the first ever document that led to some powers being given to parliament. That was the first ever document that gave powers to parliament. Some powers, not all, but some powers were devolved to the parliament. It is said in the entire world, not just UK, in the entire world, this was a beginning of monarchy now giving way to democracy. That king will say, okay, you have some of your powers, okay, you can do this, you can make laws here and there. That started the progress of slowly parliament getting more successful and more powerful, and the kings reducing their powers one by one. So again, they don't have any written constitution, but they have evolved over time. Now, let's look at their salient features. They have a parliamentary form of government, exactly the same as India. Means, in order to become a minister, you have to become a member of parliament. There is one interesting exception. I'll tell you that exception. The exception is, in India, you can become a prime minister if you are a member of any of the two houses, Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. In UK, prime minister should be from the lower house. Should be from lower house. Cannot be from upper house. That is the exception. In India, that is not the case. Dr. Manmohan Singh, Assam, he was a Rajya Sabha member from Assam. Before him, also many people. Indira Gandhi for some time Rajya Sabha member. I.K. Gujral sometime Rajya Sabha member. In India, not really true, but in UK, Prime Minister has to be from the lower house. Then they have constitutional monarchy. Monarchy, all of you know that the highest post of the country is hereditary. One single royal family. The queen passed away, the same family member became the king. I don't want to say when he passes away, but when he passes away, it will happen eventually. Then obviously his son, etc. So again, it's a monarchy going on in the same family. But it is a constitutional monarchy. What do you mean by that? It means that monarchy with limited powers. With limited powers. What are their powers? Are clearly written in the constitution. Earlier monarchies used to do whatever they want. Now monarchies have limited powers. I'll give you a real example. Okay, this is all a real example. So a few months back, our very own King Charles, he was addressing a rally, shaking hands with people. Someone tried to throw an egg on him. It was a common man. Someone just tried to throw an egg on him. Fortunately or unfortunately, whatever, the egg did not hit him. Now, this person was given a punishment. Do you know what was his punishment? The punishment was this person cannot buy eggs for 6 months. That was his punishment. There was such a joke, and it is true, this was such a joke going around that who is this king? Earlier, if someone would have tried to hit the king with an egg, the person's head would have been chopped off. And now we have a king. If you try to hit an egg, you cannot buy an egg for 6 months. That is the maximum punishment that you can have. So it's a constitutional monarchy. Constitution defines the powers of the king. You can't randomly have whatever powers you want. So their king is very similar to our president. Although I'm sure if you do that to our president, you will get even higher punishment. But in that case, you didn't really have a lot of powers. In case they have to abide by whatever their ministers are saying, they have to just sign on the bill like our president. They have a unitary constitution. What does it mean? What it means is not every country is federal. Like I can give you example. UK, Japan, France, these are not federal. Means these are actually very small countries in size. So they have not divided themselves into different states. They have central government and then they have just cities. Cities have mayors, etc. But they don't have states. They don't have provinces. So no distribution of power. It's a unitary constitution. Flexible constitution means no law for amending because nothing is written. So what is the constitutional amendment? Nothing is a constitutional amendment. You pass any law like by a simple majority, that can be an amendment. So just simple laws by simple 50% majority. There is nothing called constitutional amendment because everything is a convention. You pass a new law, you change the convention, as simple as that. The most interesting feature, however, is this parliamentary supremacy. The most interesting feature. What do you mean by a most interesting feature? Now, in case of India, parliament is not sovereign because the laws passed by parliament in India can be struck down by the judiciary. Sovereign would be someone with unlimited powers. You cannot challenge anything. In Britain, there is no judicial review. There is no judicial review. There is a very famous saying for the British Parliament, very famous old saying. British Parliament can do everything except turn a man into a woman and women into a man. Now with science, you can do that also, but let's leave that aside. But why is it said? Because whatever the parliament does, whatever laws they make, you can't challenge them in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court does not have judicial review power. So their parliament is truly supreme. Not the case with India, not the case with America, but their parliament is truly supreme because of no judicial review powers. Then they also have two houses, bicameral. Lower house, very similar to India, like Lok Sabha. Upper house is different. British upper house, that is the House of Lords, is said to be one of the weakest in the world. They have almost zero powers. It is like legislative council in our states. You have read about legislative council, right? They can't do anything. They can just stop a law for some time. Why? Because the members that they have are very unique. See, listen to this very carefully. How are or who are the members here? Number one, Lord Spiritual. Lord Spiritual are members who are nominated by the church. So British Church, there are some big churches in Britain which are recognized by the government of Britain. They nominate members. So nominated by church. Priests, fathers who are working in the church, they are the ones who get nominated. Then we have some life peers and some hereditary peers. Life peer means someone who is a member for life. You once become a member, your lifetime you are a member. No one will remove you, no worries with that. Hereditary peer are members for life and after life also. Hereditary members. So you lose your life, someone in your family will take your position. Hereditary members. Now, what is the logic behind it? Who are these people who are becoming members for life, hereditary members? Who are these people? So, in Britain, we know one famous royal family. Everyone in the world knows the royal family. But apart from that royal family also, they had some small little royal families there and there, some small king here, some small queen there. They lost all the powers. Like in India, when princely states were removed, they lost all the powers, right? One royal family got all the powers that we have today. So other small royal families, they were given this as a compensation. That don't worry, here's a lollipop. You go and become a member of our upper house for life. Imagine for life, you will get a salary, you will get a pension, you will get a house from the government. What else do you need? So these are those people. Royal families, duplicate royal families, basically. That okay, you can also become a member. Don't really worry about that. That is why they don't have any powers in the upper house. It's just a kind of a, I don't want to say the word lollipop, but I said the word lollipop. So it's similar to that, basically. No real powers in the upper house. That was all that you need to know about the British Parliament. Usually we don't have questions from there. Then we have the French Parliament. French Parliament, extremely interesting, or French Constitution, I'm sorry, not the Parliament. French Constitution, extremely interesting. For the first time ever, there was a question on French Constitution last year. Before that, we have never had a question on France. The question was very easy. Usually questions from this part are not that difficult. Very easy question. The question was, compare the French president election with the Indian president election. It was a very easy question. We'll discuss how that works. It's a very simple process. French Constitution is called the Fifth Republic. Why the Fifth Republic? French have been very experimental, very, very experimental. Just like their fashion sense, they have experimented quite a lot with their constitution also. Every few years, they keep changing the constitution. Every few years, they're like, I don't like it. Let's make something new. Let's do something new. On an average, they change a constitution every 13 years. Every 13 years, like, let's do something new. Let's have a monarchy. Let's have a republic. Let's have a mix and match. Let's do this and that. So they don't like it. They keep changing it. The current constitution they have is the Fifth Republic Constitution. Fifth constitution that says France is a republic. Apart from that, they have had monarchy, mix of republic, some here, some there, a lot of things they have done. This one is called the Fifth Republic Constitution. Now, this constitution that we have of France, it is actually newer as compared to India also. It was, see, 1958. India at least has a constitution in power since 1950. So it's even newer than us. But they experiment a lot. Because of their experimentation, they have some very unique features that you will not find in many other constitutions around the world. First unique feature. Are they a presidential form of government? No. Are they parliamentary form of government? No. Why? Because they are a mix. So they're semi-presidential. What is semi-presidential? So basically what you do is people elect the president of France, like US president. People elect the president, very powerful. Then president chooses his prime minister and ministers. He chooses his prime minister and ministers These are members of parliament. So again, as you can see, mix and match of India, UK, US, mix and match. People directly choose their president, like in the US. President chooses his ministers and PM, fine, but they have to be members of parliament, like India, like the UK. So it's a semi-presidential form of government, neither here nor there, somewhere in between. The most interesting feature of the French constitution is this. These two. Very, very, very interesting. How? The French president is said to be the most powerful president for any democratic country. It is said that no democratic country has given so much power to their president as the French have done. How? In their constitution, they have written that our parliament can make laws only on these things. So they have told specifically in their constitution that our parliament will only make law on these 15, 20 things, full stop. On everything else, the president decides. Everything else, the president decides. So only on very big issues like defense, atomic energy, etc., you can have the parliament. Then on everything else, you have the president of the France to decide what to make, what policy to make, what not. So French president has lot more powers as compared to presidents in most countries because the parliament's powers have been limited. Just like Britain, they have a unitary constitution. Let's talk about the French president election. French president election are one of the easiest to understand. One of the easiest to understand. So thank God for them. At least they made this one easy. Very easy to understand. What happens? Let's assume 10 people are fighting president election. Okay, let's say there are 10 candidates fighting president election. No problem. Anyone will get the vote. If you want to become a winner, you need to get 50% plus one vote. Simple. What if none of them gets 50% plus one? Then what happens? Then you have a second stage. In the second stage, only top two people from this will again fight the election. One of them will get 50% plus one. They will win. Simple. Just two stages. In the first stage only, if someone gets 50% plus one, great, they are the winner. If not, top two people go to the second stage, then again election. Simple. Exactly the same is followed in many countries. Like if you have been reading the news, Turkey just had its election last month. Did you read that? Turkey just had its president election last month. Erdogan won again. Exactly the same method. Exactly the same. So it's a very simple, easy process. That is why it's followed by many countries around the world. Simple process, two stage, one stage, second stage, and you are done. Another thing that tells you how France is different and gives more powers to president is the amendment process. So let me make this for you. There are two ways in which French constitution is amended. Two amendment processes. One process, parliament amends it by a special majority, both the houses. So parliament by a special majority, done, amendment is done just like India. However, if the parliament is not passing a law, not amending the constitution, but the president wants to amend the constitution. Again, let's say the French parliament is not amending the constitution, but the French president wants it, then what will happen? The president can call for a referendum. He can call for a referendum, ask the people to vote in the common public. If 60% people say yes, then it is amended. Simple. So either the parliament can amend the constitution. If they are not doing it, the president has the power to call for a referendum also. And when the referendum happens, general public will vote like normal elections. 60% say yes, it will be done. It has to be one of the two, either this or this, not both, one of the two. I'm telling this to you because in some countries it is both. Two-step process is required. First parliament, then the public. I'll discuss that also. But in France, no. Only one of the two is required. Either you go here or you go there. Monto saying, is it not costly? Monto friends have a lot of money, man. Don't worry about them. They have a lot of money. So many people go to see Eiffel Tower just to spend money, take photos. A lot of money. Chill. We have also given them so much money with the Rafale planes. Where will they use all that money, man? Let them have elections. Anyway, the last one is, and I'll take your questions also after that. Don't worry about that. The last one is Australia. Again, so far, no question has ever been asked on Australian constitution and Indian constitution comparison. So far, none of them have been asked, but we'll still study some basic features so that just in case the question comes in, you are well prepared. Australia has a very interesting history. Australia was also under the British, but when they became independent, the deal was America will not be Australia will not be a republic country. Australia, even after so many years of their independence, still regards the British Queen or King, it is the British monarch, as the monarch of Australia. So Australia is not republic. When Queen Elizabeth died, the Queen of Australia also died because they're the same person. Whoever is a British king or queen is the king or queen of Australia, whatever may be the reason for that, but this is what the deal that they had. So kind of a dominion status, if you want to call it, but this was a deal that they had. So Australia has a parliamentary form of government, just like India. They have a prime minister having most of the powers. Ministers have to be members of parliament. They have a post called Governor General. Remember, at the time of the British were here, we used to have Governor General. So they have Governor General, which is a similar case as India's president. So Australia's Governor General is very much similar to India's president. They sign on the bill. They are the ones who then finally give the assent. They work on the advice of the ministers on all the matters. And Governor General is seen as a representative of the British monarch. Representative of the British monarch. Please remember, this person is an Australian, not a British person. It's an Australian only, that is the Governor General. He is just a representative of the British monarch signing on the bill on the advice of the minister. So just a paperwork, just a paper stamp or rubber stamp kind of a thing. Nothing really different. Queen is represented by a governor in each state. So just like we have governor in every state, they also have governor. Governor General at the center, governors at the state. Their amendment is, as I said, even tougher than France. It's a two-step process. Their amendment is, first the parliament will pass it, then referendum will happen. Both these things have to happen. It is exactly the same as Japan. In Japan also, it's a two-step process. First, parliament passing it by a special majority, then people will have to vote for it. And Japan so far has 0 amendments in their constitution. 0 amendments because of that process. And in Australia also, see, so far they have completed over 120 years. Only 8 amendments have happened in Australia. Only 8. 44 were proposed, means one by one process started for 44. Only for 8, parliament and the referendum both could agree. Just imagine the difficulty in the process of amendment. As I said, so far we have never had any question from Australia constitution, but just very generic features. Governor General has a 3-year tenure, very similar to the American president. Their federal system is very similar to India. Their states have their constitution, but in Australia, center is more powerful than states. Center is more powerful than states. Meaning that if a state makes a law which is seen to be against central government constitution of Australia, like our concurrent list system, if the state makes a law that seems to be going contrary to their central government law or constitution, that law will not be allowed. Like our concurrent list, as you know, both center and the government of India can pass the law, but the center government, they are the ones whose laws are given preference. Similar is the case here. Central government law will be given preference over the state. So federal system very similar to that of India. Previously, just last year we had a question, very simple question, compare India and French presidential election. Before that, the question was in 2018. India and US are two large democracies. Examine basic tenets on which the two political systems are based. So basically here you can write compare about democratic system of the two countries. You can write about comparison of judicial system also. You can write how their presidential form of government is different as compared to our parliamentary form of government. Basically 3-4 points in 150 words, comparing the main features, how they are different, how the name might be the same, but the feature might be slightly different. Very simple question to answer. Now, I have just one practice question for you, because the comparison of constitution part is a main specific topic. But from political party part, I have this simple one question for you. Answer this question, then I'll take your doubts, and then we'll end the class. Read this question carefully. Let me know once you have read it. Vivek, the British Parliament doesn't have seats. They have full sofa, so they can't remove that. Same is with the American Parliament. If they have seats and table, maybe they can remove and throw. But that is why they were too smart. They made full sofas, so that you can't break them and throw them. Maybe suggest them. You never know. Okay, should we start your time? Should we start your time? Okay, the time starts now. Once again, reminding you, tomorrow we don't have a class. There's one more module remaining, which will be discussed on Friday. Okay, just a reminder. Only 15% people are correct. This seems to be a tricky question for some reason. This is D. I thought it's not that difficult. You have read about electoral bonds multiple times in polity also, current affair webinars also. We did discuss it. It has been discussed. See, all these are true. The aim is to make sure that the transparency increases. I'm not saying the aim has been met or not, but at least that is what the aim is. Second, you can only donate to those political parties that are recognized and got at least 1% votes in the last election. True. It is valid for only 15 days. Once you buy it, you have to give it within 15 days. The day that political party submits the poll or submits the bond in their account, the same day they will get the money. No delay. The political parties don't want any delay in their payment. Okay. Anyways, let's quickly look at the leaderboard and then I'll take up some of your